Torah is just a long string of numbers. Some say that it's a code sent to us from God.
That's kind of interesting.
Yeah, that's just good stuff. Check this out, okay? The word for the Garden of Eden, Kedem. Numerical translation, 144. Now the value of tree of knowledge, all right, in the garden, right? Eitz HaChaim, 233. 144, 233. And you can take those numbers. So the,
you know, like the Fibonacci sequence?
Fibonacci.
Fibonacci is an Italian mathematician in the 13th century. If you divide 144 into 233, the result approaches theta.
Theta?
Theta. Greek symbol, golden ratio, golden spiral.
Wow. I never saw that before. That's like that series you find in nature? Like the face of a sunflower?
Wherever the spirals.
You see this math everywhere.
Welcome back to the Gnostic Informant, and you are about to attain true gnosis.
And welcome to Myth Vision and History Valley. What's up, everybody?
You know, us three in particular, we've been talking about this topic for a long time since we've known each other. Over 5 years now, I think. Mm-hmm. And it's the origins of Christianity. Now, we all agree it's a Jewish sect. Yeah. In the beginning, we're not we're not even debating. Well, maybe someone might want to debate that. Someone else might want to debate that. But us three all agree it came out of Judaism. But there are some nuances to discuss as of how Roman of a religion Christianity becomes, and even early on, how early does it become a Roman religion? How late does it become a Roman? Is it the 4th century? Is that when it becomes a Roman? That type of thing.
Right. How much do you mean by a Roman religion, right? Because we think of it like Constantine, but it's like, bro, Judaism's mama might have been Jewish, but the daddy, Pantera, homie, like the daddy has been Greek for a long time. So like,
yes,
you know what I'm
that's
saying?
a good way to put it.
You know
it's like it's the offspring of two different parents, the Greco-Roman Mediterranean world and, Second Temple Judaism.
Exactly.
And so the debate becomes what's the degree of each? How much are we talking here? And so, what do you guys think about this?
I think it came from outer space. I think aliens came in the 1st century. They tricked us to pretend it's either Jewish or Roman, and it's purely extraterrestrial. What do you think, Jacob?
Sounds like we were reading the back of Ralph Ellis's book, The Grail Cipher. But anyway, that aside, I think the problem is, how do we tell how Roman it is? What do we mean by that? And that is the question. And the big issue is that it comes down to the text that we have. And we know we're missing stuff. Now, y'all know that I don't like talking about hypothetical documents that we don't have. Yet, it is also frustratingly true that we are missing stuff. And we don't exactly know what we are missing. As the late Jacob Neusner said, I'm paraphrasing what he said. But he said something to the effect of, we don't know what we don't have. Something like that. And he's right. And it comes down to what we have in Paul's letters, the Gospels. When do you date them? And that is debated when these texts came out. And you have a lot of differently scholarly opinions on this.
Yeah, because
which really makes it
right. If you're right, let's just all for the sake. I mean, here's what we should do today. No one should take any certain stance among us.
Sure.
Three. We should just be throwing spaghetti out there and see what sticks. Just throwing ideas, because if let's just say all the Gospels and Paul are like late 1st, early 2nd century or into the 2nd century, which I'm not saying that's the case. But if that were, your point is this would radically change how we might want to view what Christianity seems to be doing. Because if it is all that, it's likely already broken away from Judaism, and it's maybe a spin-off, but you wouldn't give it that organic Judaism kind of interpretation. Yeah. But that's why a lot of people think it's gradual. And we all just started, it's a Jewish sect, of course. But there's a freaking debate. I know scholars can't seem to agree on everything, but I mean, like you were about to interview Richard Horsley, which I hope you do. I can't wait.
It's later this month, but yeah.
Good. He disagrees with some of the more critical scholarship within Judaism schools like Paula Fredrickson and E.P. Sanders and others who think a lot of them, and I'm not saying E.P. Sanders as much, have theologized Jesus's activities and Jesus's movement, whereas Horsley says it's a political movement and it's a messianic one, which has the intentions of really being anti-Roman. Yet it's facing Rome, and a lot of the gospel authors are tweaking material to be somewhat polite. So, like, this is why it's a mess. I mean, I think all three of us at one point even entertained at the very beginning of our channels the idea that it's all invented by, Vespasian, and like it's pure, like Romans invented the whole thing from the ground up. And then we got, more rigorous, got more into critical scholarship, started studying, looking at primary sources, saw conflicting data that didn't match what we wanted it to say at the time. We were excited. We're early. We're, young with our careers on these channels. And then we started realizing, oh, snap, it isn't all full the other direction either, though. There seems to be different texts doing different things with different intentions throughout the New Testament.
Mm. Now, also to add in Philo, there already was, before Christianity, before Paul, in the 1st century BC and 1st century CE, Philo lived in both. He lived at the cradle of both, right? You already have a Hellenized, Roman-friendly type of Judaism that allegorizes the Old Testament, that spiritualizes the law, says things like there should, there's a greater. Philo says, like, there's a greater temple, greater than the one in Jerusalem, which is the one in heaven, which is the temple for all humans. He's already universalizing Judaism in his philosophy. And then the way he speaks about the gods throughout his writings, all throughout Philo's writings, he's constantly talking about the Greek and Roman gods in a positive light and using them to make his arguments, saying things like, in his letter to the embassy to Gaius, he's like, were you like Mercury, running across the world and giving your message, giving the good news to all the people? Were you like Dionysus, giving the gift of wine to humanity and bringing cheerfulness and gladness to the world like Bacchus does? And he's using Greco-Roman imagery to apply it through his Jewish lens. And then he's even bringing forth things like the Logos, the second God, the second two gods and two powers in heaven ideology that you find in Platonism. So you already have a very Gentile-friendly Roman, Platonist, Pythagorean, whatever you want to call it, type of Judaism floating around in Philo's time. So that brings us back to, like, is it just Judaism? Is it just a Jewish religion? And you can even make that argument based on Philo. You just say it's Jewish.
He's so Hellenized. Judaism. He's so Hellenized that technically you would think it's Roman, but it's just a Jewish Roman thing. The problem with that, I mean, and maybe here, it's not even a problem. Maybe Jews did. I am convinced there's a lot of mimesis going on with the Greek works. So maybe Jews by that time were so thoroughly mixed in these ideas with the Greco-Roman world. Sure. But we cannot discount the fact that Gentiles are being incorporated into the movement quite early on. So it's like, why would we call something an exclusive one thing when Romans are now adopting it right out the gate? So I think very quickly when there's fractures between Judaism and Christianity, what eventually becomes this movement that follows a Jesus who is a dying Messiah, Jews weren't thumbs upping that progress. They're like, our Messiah wasn't really supposed to die, buddy. He was supposed to not die. Then when Romans are adopting it, which is perfect, a dying and rising God would fit right into a Greco-Roman world. You start to see some changes, and some scholars think like that's Horsley, like we brought up earlier. Others that say, hey, as you get this predominantly non-Jewish world adopting this religion, it changes. And then they reinterpret things too. So like very quickly, things that seem to be very Jewish in Paul's letters, according to people like Paula Fredrickson and others, get reinterpreted within a decade or two to mean something different. Like any movement, things change within a decade or two. The language changes, the interpretation changes, and that's Christianity in a nutshell. To me, it's like the perfect virus that knows how to adapt to every environment. It becomes Manichaeism when it hits the East. It becomes, Gnostic when it hits Alexandria. It becomes
Alexandria.
Yeah, when it hits Rome, it's very Catholicism and very Roman religion. You pointed this in documentary after documentary. You know what I mean?
That's right from the Pauline playbook, basically telling in Corinthians, saying like, go ahead, go eat the meat sacrificed to idols. It doesn't do anything to you. Go and mingle with the pagans. Bring them over to our side. And then even later on, and I'm really skipping ahead to early 6th century, 500s, where Pope Gregory writes a letter to the bishop in London. I talk about this on my channel all the time, saying, "Don't destroy the pagan temples." we already did that. And it was a bad idea. We figured out it was a bad idea back in the 4th century. We did that, but let's not do that anymore. I have a better idea. Just convert it to churches. Just take their holy sites, sprinkle holy water into it, take the idol out, take the demon out. He says, put a cross in there, put some relics. Pepper it up with some relics, get some foreskins in there, get a few true crosses in there, and then make it a church. And that's what he does. And this is like Christianity. It was able to adopt and mold itself to the world around itself. Yeah. So Derek, you just made the debate winning point right here, is that it's everything. It adapts to the environment around itself. It's got this weird, what is it called? The when it gets a host, what's the animal called when it gets a host? Where it goes into your brain and it uses you as a host. What is that called again?
Parasite.
Parasite. Okay. It's like a very parasitic in that sense.
That's how the Romans saw it. Remember, the Romans are writing about it, saying like, this is the worst. What did they use the word? Contagious? I don't remember what but it
is. It's parasitic. Celsus even says like they want to live like the Jews. By the way, Celsus is the earliest thorough scholarly work on Christianity of all time. You can't say Josephus doesn't know shit about Christians. Tacitus doesn't know shit about Christians. Pliny the Younger doesn't know shit about Christians. They barely talk about them. Right. Celsus is the first scholarly written document about Christianity on record. And what does he say? He says, on one hand, they want to live like the Jews. They believe in Adam and Eve. They believe in the world's going to end. They believe in the kingdom of heaven. They believe in all this Jewish stuff. And on the other hand, they're like Mithras devotees, and they're like followers of all these other, like he compares them to the mystery religions. He's like, they're just like Mithras people. He you can even see in that document, he's not a fan of the Mithraic religion. He talks crap about them too. So he's like, they're just like these other idiots doing mystery religion stuff. So he's pointing out how diverse they are. Right. And then he says, they got Marcionites, they got Carpocratians, they got Marcellians, they got these people, but they're all unified by Christ's crucifixion. That's the only thing that unifies them, is the crucifixion.
What do you think, Jacob?
Well, what I want to say is, different Christian groups will either modify it, they can abridge a text like Marcion did with Luke, or they can expand on it like the Manichaeans did with Thomas, because the Oxyrhynchus Papyri And I am working on a separate paper on that, on Thomas, and I examined the Oxyrhynchus papyri and the pseudo-Clementine recognitions. And what I'm going to be discussing is, regardless of when you date this first edition of Thomas, it did exist, and it's a much smaller text than our Coptic edition. This is not a hypothetical document; it's real. And our Coptic edition of Thomas is loaded with Manichaean parallels. It's all about how our bodies are imprisoned light. And you see this in Manichaean literature. You can look at the Coptic Gospel of Thomas and look at Manichaean text, and then you can make sense of what Cyril of Jerusalem said. Cyril says that Manichaeans wrote the Gospel of Thomas. He says that. And so when you compare the Coptic Thomas to Manichaean theology, it's all over it. So they changed it in order to fit their view. And if you read about Mani, their founder, Mani had a vision of the divine twin, Ptolemy, in Manichaean literature. That's what attracted them to modify that text. So they can change text. People change text to fit their theology. Absolutely.
By the way, on Thomas, that Oxyrhynchus discovery, in my opinion, is greater than the Dead Sea Scrolls or the Nag Hammadi's discovery, and it's because of the list of texts they found in that dig. When you look at the Oxyrhynchus papyri, you get like Theopompus, Thucydides, Euclid. So you get mathematics stuff, Theon. You get Plato, Euripides. You have Alcaeus, Sappho, and then all of a sudden there's a whole plethora of Christian texts with John, Thomas, Shepherd of Hermas, the Apocalypse of Baruch, and Matthew. And it's like, who were these people that have all these texts together? And it kind of paints a picture of what like second century milieu was going on in that time with Christians. They were like in the same realm as they were reading Plato and they're reading Euripides, but they're also reading John and Matthew and Thomas. That's what's going on. Like you could see, that's what Oxyrhynchus tells us. You know,
we got a bunch of super dupers here. We should hit them real quick here and catch
up. Let's start doing them.
Somebody's got a membership. I don't know who, but hallelujah. Welcome to salvation. This is the real Christianity, not all those fake Manichaean / Gnostic / Roman / and the list goes on and on and on and on. This is the real one. Just saying. Stefan, thank you so much for the super chat, Stefan. We appreciate you. The question is wrong. The answer is both. Of course it is.
And I actually agree with Stephanie on this. That you can't pick one. It's not just one or the other. You can make the case that it came from Judaism. Mm-hmm. Obviously, we're all in agreement there. You can even say it's more Jewish than pagan, and I'll even agree with you there. But then you can't say it's just purely Jewish as a phenomenon. It's not. It's got tons of what we would call pagan, Greco-Roman, Roman, whatever you want to call it, elements.
Real quick comment on this. M. David Litwell's book, Jesus Deus, actually gets into this in the beginning of it to describe how the history of scholarship, Martin Hingel and others have identified that it used to be like, oh, if it's pagan, Jewish, it's like competition. Like, oh, pagan means Jewish lose. Oh, Jewish means pagan lose. And apologetics often, apologists today want to go that route of, oh, it's Jewish, therefore pagan lose. And it's not. It's syncretizing a lot of this material into a package. And that's why if you were looking at the child, you went, is it Jewish or is it pagan? You'd go, it's mixed. It's got all sorts of stuff in there. Stefan Beyer, thank you so much again for another super chat. How do you feel about Talmud Nero versus Gospel Jesus? How does the Talmud treat Nero?
In a positive way. Believe it or not.
Interesting.
It's a very strange. Obviously, Nero destroyed the temple. Obviously, it's got that aspect.
Nero did?
Yes. I mean, he started the war, I should say.
Okay.
So without Nero, there would be no Titus destroying the temple. Hold on, I'm just waiting for this. Thank you for the super chat. Doesn't Evangelion mean good news from the battle? Yes, it does. We'll get to you in a minute. I appreciate you, Eddie. I appreciate you. I always like seeing you in the chat. I meant to say Nero started the Jewish Roman revolt. People think, a lot of people get this wrong. They think like the Jews started this war out of nowhere because they were like, they just hated Romans. It's actually, I talked to Steve Mason. I have a whole video on this. Actually, no. Nero bankrupted the Roman, all the money, whatever you want to call it, the what do you call it? The reserve, I guess you would say. Like all the money that the Romans had from the Pax Romana from that to that time period, he went and built all these circuses and all this new stuff, and it was great for the people. They loved Nero. They're like, wow, he's building all these brand new things, but he went bankrupt. So what did he do? He raided the Britannica temple, and he had the revolt of what's her name, the queen of the Britons over there, and then he raided a few temples in Greece. And then he had his people go, he had Gessius Florus in particular go to Jerusalem and go into the temple of Jerusalem because he knew they had a bunch of money there, take their money. And that's what started the Jewish war. So that's all written in Josephus and other sources talk about this. But weirdly enough, you would think the Talmud would be like, hey, like, Nero's the devil, like the Christians say. But weirdly enough, the Talmud has like weird cryptic passages about like Nero converting to Judaism and giving prophecy. Like there's one story where Nero shoots up an arrow in the sky and it's like it aims towards Jerusalem, and it was like a prophecy of the fall of Jerusalem or something like that. There's a weird. I'm probably getting the basics wrong on that, but the point is there are some weirdly positive portrayals of Nero in the Talmud.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't know what to do about comparing those two as far as Gospel Jesus and Talmud Nero. I mean, we could go to other people too. If we're talking about the temple, this super chat is pretty short, so it's hard to know exactly what you're getting at in terms of comparing them. There's different.
I'll pull up what I'm talking about to show people because this is pretty interesting. But yeah, continue.
Yeah, Stefan, again, thank you. At will is off. Needs two powers in heaven or no God. I think at will's off on his conclusions. Obviously, that is not to say you shouldn't try and look at Josephus as potentially giving information or some type of dialogue between what the New Testament is talking about and what Josephus is talking about. Needs two powers in heaven or no God. I don't understand that part.
I don't even know what that has to do with at will. Well, first off, at will's ideas isn't original. I actually have a video coming up on that because I keep getting bombarded by people wanting me to platform at will, and they're not aware of it. I deplatformed them.
Mm-hmm.
And let's just say the video is going to include evidence that he's a Holocaust denier, and everybody will see what I'm talking about. But yeah, he's not a good guy.
Okay.
Hey, can you see this? Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, just put Stephanie down for just a second.
Okay, hold on.
And I just want to show you. This is very fascinating, guys. This is like super. And when I heard about this, I was blown away. So here's what I meant. Here's what I was trying to say. It's been a while since I read this. The Roman authorities, this is from the Gittin 56a Talmud. The Roman authorities sent Nero Caesar against the Jews. When he came to Jerusalem, he wished to test his fate. He shot an arrow to the east, and the arrow came and fell in Jerusalem. Then he shot an arrow to the west, it fell in Jerusalem. An arrow in all four directions, and they all fell against Jerusalem. Okay, so that's weird. What is that? What's going on here?
Right.
Nero then conducted another test. He said to a child, "Tell me a verse that you learned today." He said to him as follows, "I will lay my vengeance upon Edom by the hand of my people Israel," Ezekiel. Nero said, "The Holy One, blessed be he, wishes to destroy his temple. He wishes to wipe his hands with that man, with me. The Romans are associated with Edom, the descendants of Esau. If I continue on this mission, I will eventually be punished for having served as God's agent to bring about the destruction." So he fled to become a convert, Nero. So Nero fled to become a convert, and ultimately Rabbi Meir descended from him. What?
That's a wild, pedigree.
And then it says, and then the very next passage, the Roman authorities then sent Vespasian Caesar against the Jews. He came to lay siege against Jerusalem for 3 years. There were at that time in Jerusalem these 3 wealthy people: Nakdimon, Ben Gurion. Ben Gurion's the name of the airport, by the way. Ben Kalba Savia and Ben Sivit Akasat. The Gemara explains the names. Nakdimon Ben Gurion was called that name because the sun shined on his behalf, as it is related elsewhere. Anyways, that's you get the point.
I thought that was pretty interesting. Yeah. There's a lot to dig into the way a lot of them are thinking about things. Again, CT Jones in the house became a member. They were already a member at the beginning. Stefan is back again, says, how much do I have to pay you 3 to do more shows?
Oh, yeah. Appreciate that. By the way, we got 1,000 viewers across all platforms right now.
Awesome.
It's pretty good.
Heck yeah. Lots of people, lots of noise. Make some noise. Share this thing.
Share it out.
Would you guys, by the way, to answer your question is, we'll be doing these periodically for sure. I mean, I enjoy them. Would you guys ever consider debunking Allegro?
I mean, I like Allegro.
I like mushrooms too much. No, I'm just kidding.
I like, yeah, no, I have a bias wanting him to be right, but the experts that actually know Sumerian and Akkadian and whatever the hell he's getting at are like, come on, bro, you're breaking all the rules of linguistics. Like I know a little bit about Proto-Indo-European linguistics and how it's reconstructed. Yeah. There's rules that you have to apply. So when you convert, when you put together, when you have your Latin, your Greek, you have your Persian and your Indian and your German, and you can see how each of these words, mater, meter, mata, meda, mada, you can see how they all line up, and then you can use those laws to reconstruct the Proto-Indo-European. Anyways, there are certain laws you got to follow as a linguist that for when you to translate text and reconstruct text that we don't know. Well, apparently
he saw things that were probably
Allegro was just breaking all these linguistic laws and just doing what he wanted, just putting this word sounds like this word, therefore it means this. And so it's like, as someone who's not an expert, he might sound really convincing when I read his book, but I can't. I just don't know enough to co-sign something like that.
Right.
And I want to hear the experts saying, "Let's trust me, dude. I know it sounds convincing. He's the way he's making the argument. I'm telling you, it's not good. It's not good. He's not being scientific. I have to go with them. I have to listen. I have to take their word for that."
Yeah, I mean, I remember. First of all, there's a book John Collins writes about discussing the Dead Sea Scrolls and the communities, Qumran community. Are they Essenes? Are they not? He goes through all this stuff and he brings up John M. Allegro in passing. I can't remember the name of the book. It's on Audible, though. So John J. Collins on Audible. So you could probably find him describing this. But I will say this, to his credit, to anyone who might view this is not to like, I'm not trying to promote any substance use or anything like that. But I want to be honest. I've never had with mushrooms like issues as I did with other substances with my past. Okay. So I remember those experiences, very profound experiences from psychedelics when I was younger. And when I heard Allegro and would watch his little very black and white interviews and things, and then was hearing people try to describe the depth, the meaning, the forgiveness of sin, all of that stuff. And then finding stuff in the Bible, like manna from heaven, or what is the sacred fruit in the garden and all that. I was trying to attach those experiences to some of those things. And I could see why someone might interpret those that way. A layperson would go, man, my experience with this, with mushrooms has caused me to think maybe the sacramental mill has given me this kind of experience, because you could find this in other Greco-Roman mystery cults and stuff as well, where they also practice these things. So it'd be really cool to have this be able to be verified. And I've spent years asking scholars along the way, for those who don't know the Immortality Key, there's a book called The Immortality Key Brian Murarescu, if I pronounced that properly. I had him email connected correspondence with Dennis MacDonald, who's all into the ancient Greek stuff, and was trying to have them collab and wanted to have him on, and we never made the interview happen. Maybe we will have that interview at some point. But he tries to argue that in that love mill, there was some substance stuff going on. But I think every scholar I know that's in the field thinks Allegro went too far. That's not to say there isn't something possibly going on. It's just they think he went too far. That's my thoughts. I don't know. Like Neil. Yeah. So, Jacob, do you want me to move to the next one? You good on that one? You don't have much to offer on that one. Constellation Pegasus, thank you so much for the super chat. Really appreciate that. 20. Heads up, you three. James Webb may have found the first stars to form in the universe. If verified, it will be the biggest scientific discovery in your lifetime. You should have Aaron Adair on to explain class 3 stars to you. Thank you. I will definitely get to that. Give him a call, actually, and say, hey, man, we got to set this up. I'll ask him where they're at in terms of the research, and if he has something he could present, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Very, very interesting.
James Webb. Oh, my God. Yeah, what's going on with Artemis 3?
Yeah, I'm curious to know about the stars thing. Like, what if we find out how old the universe is and it's like 50 billion or some crazy...
Well, Constellations is saying, wait a minute, we're all talking about Artemis 3, but James Webb has just found these stars over here. It's like, okay, I got you.
Yeah,
but it's crazy. Like we're literally sitting here on Earth, like just going about our days, and like as we're doing this, there's literally people, and not even just people. There's telescopes up in the space doing all this work, gathering all this data, and we're just sitting here doing what we're doing.
Yeah.
It's mind-blowing.
It is, and the little arguments and disagreements, and like I love the fact that when you back up and you go, dude, look at the speck in the grand scheme of things.
Look what the scientific method brought us. Look what rejection of dogma brought to the world. I'm such a pro enlightenment person. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know how you get all these memes online. The Enlightenment was the worst thing that ever happened to us. Look how great the world was.
I wish I could burn people.
They'll show a church that was built in the Enlightenment period. They'll show like a 19th century church, not even knowing it's not from the time you're trying to promote.
Oh my!
It's just funny to me.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Thank you so much, Constellation. We really appreciate you being in the chat and always showing up and just being part of what we're doing here. Thank you.
Yeah, Constellation's been around since the day one, dude.
Absolutely.
Constellation's one of the greats, one of our greats.
Well, they've been there since the constellations had formed.
Yeah.
You know.
Look at his logo. He's got a little Land Rover thing.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Absolutely. Thank you. All right, next one is James Valiant. Thank you for the super sticker. Really appreciate that love and support. I think that's on your channel there, History Valley.
Yeah, the previous one was too.
Oh, did I miss one?
No, you already got it. Constellation Pegasus. Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
really appreciate that.
Thank you both. Yeah.
Yeah, for real. Steve M. 1984. Thank you so much for the super chat. This is an unholy trinity I can get behind. Yeah.
Nice.
Look,
nice. Thank you.
I appreciate it, Steve. Bakken in the house. What is up? Axe obfuscated the history of the church and promotes events to promote a mixed up history to make Paul seem innocent and saintly. He worked for Ananias, who killed John, James, and Jesus. Josephus wrote of Saul.
I got a lot to say about that.
Hold on. Yeah, you do, and I'll let you take over in 1 second. However, Acts does kind of hint at Paul being a part of the murder of Stephen.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
it basically says like Paul was there, and when they killed Stephen, he was part of the whole. He was hunting down Christians and killing them.
Right. So
he's not. He starts off totally unsaintly, and then gains his redemption through the chapter 8 or 9 or whatever.
True.
So back and thank you for your super chat and to respond to your point there. So here's the issue. This is a conflation of multiple different accounts. That's what this is.
I'm going to drop the super chat while you're explaining it. Bakken, we love you, but I don't want Neil's face to be blocked.
It's all right. You can
and our faces were both being blocked on the other format.
Leave it up.
Okay, go ahead then. You're fine. Go ahead.
Okay, that's fine. Anyway, I was saying this is a conflation of multiple accounts because Josephus never tells us that Solos, that's the one he's talking about, is Paul. Robert Eisenman claims that's Paul. I don't think he's Paul. But I think later Christian documents, even the canonical text, but especially after, are conflating the individuals. There's no reason to think that they were originally the same person. We have no evidence that Paul worked for Ananias. In fact, the Pseudo-Clementine Recognitions claims that the original Paul worked for Caiaphas, not Ananias. It wasn't until Origen of Alexandria in the 3rd century. Literally, it's not until the 1st century CE that Christians started claiming that James, the brother of Jesus, and Josephus is the same one in the New Testament. Christians before that never identified that James with the biblical James. That was a later interpretation by Origen. Nobody talked about the James passage until Origen. I'm not claiming the James passage is unauthentic. I actually think it's authentic. But earlier Christians I don't think they thought that was James. And it wasn't until Origen that the identification of the two became more widespread. I think some of them did think that, but more of them did not. And the thing is, Origen would have an interest in claiming that the James and Josephus is our James, because what you can do is you can blame it all on Ananias, and Paul's responsibility is obfuscated. It's removed from the equation. Because notice that when Origen's quoting the passage, he doesn't go around and say, oh, Paul and the recognitions attacked James. Therefore, I'm going to assume he was acting on Ananias' order. He's not thinking like that. He's not conflating the text like that. And so we have to be careful when we read these texts and conflating these different stories together, because I think these are different Jameses that were confused for one another over a long period of time. So I just wanted to urge caution there with Bakken. And like I said, okay, if you look at First Clement, and I am giving my opinion on that too, that I know that some will say it's an argument from science. I guess it is, but I think it's a pretty strong one. There is a problem when you have First Clement and it doesn't know our canonical 13 letters. It just doesn't. I know some try to argue that he does, but that's kind of hard to show. And I actually think it's more cautious to think he did not know them than they claim that he did. The standard view defends the 7, and they try to read those 7 letters into First Clement, try to say that First Clement knew those letters.
Eisegesis, not exegesis.
Right.
And he shows awareness of Gnostic literature, believe it or not, which you would think would be. You hear Wes Huff telling all these podcasts that Gnostic literature is all 3rd and 4th century. Well, then why is First Clement citing the Gospel of the Egyptians almost word for word in some cases? The part where the Phoenix, the Phoenix rising. I should pull that up, maybe. That'd be good. And while you do that, I'll just say one more thing about this about the super chat. Again, you have to assume that the standard view is right about the 7 letters, and then even after you do that, you have to still engage in conflation, like I was just talking about, to arrive at this conclusion that Paul and Ananias were working together. And I'll leave it there. Yeah, that's how quick I was able to find it, because this is such a well-attested text. Yes. Chapter 25 of First Clement says, the Phoenix, an emblem of our resurrection. Now listen, now think about this for a second. He's just got done talking about Luke 8, and he goes on and says, desolation of the mighty power of providence, and blah, 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 blah. And then he says, let us consider that wonderful sign. And by the way, I don't know if this is really from Luke 8. He just says the sower. It could be from anything. I don't know. I'm just saying. The point I'm making is he's not talking about the Phoenix yet. He just randomly, out of nowhere, it says this. Let us consider a wonderful sign of the resurrection, which takes place in eastern lands, that is Arabia, and the countries round about. Now, notice how he doesn't say, let me tell you about the allegory of our resurrection. He doesn't say that. He says a wonderful sign of our resurrection. There is a certain bird called the phoenix. Only one of its kind, and lives 500 years. So notice how I'm just trying to make this very abundantly clear. There is not a single thing yet, no hint of allegory. This is something he thinks is real. Okay, 500 years this bird lives for, and when the time of its dissolution draws near, that it must die, it builds itself a nest of frankincense and myrrh and other spices, into which the time is fulfilled that it enters and dies. But as the flesh decays, a certain kind of worm is produced, which, being nourished by the juices of the dead bird, brings forth feathers. Then, when it has acquired strength, it takes up the nest in which are the bones of its parent. And bearing these, it passes from the land of Arabia into Egypt, into the city called Heliopolis. In an open day, flying in the sight of all men, it places them on the altar of the sun. That's a pagan temple, by the way. Mm-hmm. This is a pagan Egyptian temple.
In Egypt, yeah.
In Egypt. Having done this, hastens back to its former abode. The priest, and by the way, priest? What priest? These aren't Jewish priests. They're pagan. They have to be pagan priests. Weird, right? Mm-hmm. The priests then inspect the registers of the dates and find that it has returned exactly as the 500th year was completed. So, okay. Then he talks about like what it means and all this stuff. It's the resurrection, right? Well, what's interesting about that is I have this book right here, edited by Willis Barnstone and Marvin Meyer, called The Gnostic Bible.
Hold on.
I highly recommend it.
Real quick. There we go.
Let me put it in the light. There you go.
Yep.
The Gnostic Bible. I highly recommend it. It's a very thick book with scholarly translations of Gnostic literature. And what do you know? So that text I read you is 96 AD. Well, let's take a look at this. Let's take a look at this. Let me find this right now for a second. I'm just going to the index where it says Phoenix, because I know it's in here somewhere. Here we go. The word Phoenix is not in the index. I thought it was in the index. Okay, anyways, in here, I'll find it in a second. We can continue while I look for it. And I'll continue on this rant that I'm going on if you want to just continue on the next super chat.
Okay.
Just so I don't hold you guys up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
By the way, I was thinking of the table of the sun. There's this well-known thing in Egypt about the table of the sun that came to mind, and you get this in the Talmud as well.
Yeah, that's from the Egyptian. That's from it's called the Ethiopian story.
So
yeah.
So what I just want to say this one comment while you're looking there. That's an odd thing in a Christian text. Even
yes,
Phoenix.
It's even weirder once you find out where it came from. I'm going to show you.
Just very strange. Okay, next one is Eddie Moretti. Thank you so much for that 20 bomb. Another great discussion. Thanks, guys. Don't you think that the Battle of Milvian Bridge was the lightning bolt that supercharges the spread of Christianity? Doesn't Evangelion mean good news from the battle? So I think the last part, just it's this idea that we do get the emperors who have evangelions. They have gospels.
Augustus also used that term as well.
Yeah. They fabricated a story about the battle where Constantine looked up in the sky and saw the image of the cross.
Right.
And look, do I think that actually happened? No, but I think it attests to how Christianity is able to myth make and make legends to rewrite the past, to validate the future.
I do think it had a lightning bolt, at least in some sense, in the mythic charge that it may have presented to the world. When you start spreading this rumor and you just had a serious war, look at the kind of fervor that would give someone who may have been on the fence, may have been pagan, And when, you know what, I can't disagree with the supernatural omens that they're seeing, and look at the victory, right? So the propaganda machine really takes over. But the question about the Evangelion and its attachment to battle, I don't know if it has to carry that. It wouldn't shock me though if there's still a vestigial battle essence to the term Evangelion with the idea, because emperors would come in, you know, they would enter cities and stuff. They had Evangelions, and we know it's attributed to Roman, you know, Roman Caesars. And they were constantly wielding the sword. And in fact, we know from, you know, the famous original king Romulus has a great news, go and tell this great news to all of Rome, war, right? War.
Yeah.
So did they detach the militant aspect, or is the apocalypticism where God's going to come in? You see the man with eyes, flame of fire, hair white as wool in Revelation. He's coming to battle, baby. He's not there to bring peace. He's bringing a sword. So is there something to that, you know?
Yeah. Okay, so real quick, remember I just mentioned, just to drop this down real quick, I just wanted to make sure we connect.
Yeah.
I mentioned how the Phoenix is completely described, not allegorically or as some sort of legend or myth. He thinks this is actually going on in Clement, First Clement, one of the first popes, in 96 AD, writes about this Phoenix story, right? Okay, cool. I just want to make sure we're connecting that to what we're doing now. Now, in the Gnostic literature, there's a text known as On the Origin of the World. And this text in particular gets dated to, I think, 2nd or 3rd century. I think it might have the date here. On the Origin of the World. 2nd or 3rd century, a little bit later. However, it does draw from earlier material that's been lost. And the reason why we can say that is because of texts like Clement. And so Clement mentions this legend about this phoenix bird that rises out of Arabia and lands in Egypt. And it's a miracle that's a portent of the resurrection. Well, guess what? In this Gnostic text, it says, then when Sophia Zoe, which is literally means wisdom, the wisdom or Eve or life, Sophia Zoe, when this third aspect of the Trinity, Sophia Zoe, saw the rulers of darkness cursed her companions, she was angry. And when she came out of the first heaven with every power, she chased the rulers from their heavens, and she cast them down to the sinful world, that they might dwell there as evil daimons upon the earth. She sent the bird that was in paradise, so that until the consummation of the age, it might spend 1,000 years in the archon's world, a vital living being with soul called Phoenix, which kills itself and reanimates itself for a witness to their judgment, because they dealt unjustly with Adam and his race. There are 3 human beings and their descendants in the world until the consummation of age: the spiritual and the physical and the earthly. This is like the 3 kinds of phoenixes of paradise. The first is immortal. The second one attains 1,000 years. As the third, it is written in the holy book that is consumed. Likewise, 3 baptisms exist. The first is spiritual, the second is by fire, and the third is by water. Just as the phoenix appears as a witness for the angels, so too the water serpents in Egypt have become witnesses for those who go down for the baptism of a true person. The 2 bowls in Egypt, by the way, that's Apis and Menavis. We're getting into some pagan shit here. Insofar as they indicate the sun and the moon as a mystery exists to witness for Sabaoth, that Sophia of the world has been exalted above the sun and the moon from the day when she created them and sealed for her heaven until the consummation of the age. And the worm, here we go, the worm. This is literally what Clement says. And the worm that is brought forth from the phoenix is also a human being. It is written of it that the just will sprout like the phoenix. So he's citing something here. We don't know what it is. The phoenix first appears alive, and it dies, and it rises again as a sign of what appears at the consummation of the age. These great signs appeared only in Egypt, not in other lands, signifying that it is the paradise of God.
Hold on. So you're going to tell me it didn't appear in Jerusalem? What the hell's going on here, bro?
It's in Egypt and Arabia. And by the way, the point I'm trying to really get across to you guys is the earlier you go, First Clement, one of the earliest Christian texts we know, the more Gnostic it gets, the more Gnostic friendly it gets, the more heretic friendly it gets. If you take the first 7 letters of Paul and get rid of the other 5 for, Timothy and all that other stuff, Titus, you just throw that away for a second, pretend it doesn't even exist. You just take those 7 letters of Paul, you start to go, wait a minute. The idea of gnosis and speaking in tongues and all this Gnostic shit is actually what Paul is getting at.
So yeah, I think there's something. I think, bro, don't drink the worm.
Don't drink the worm. Don't consume the worm.
Jacob, where did we leave off? I know we got Eddie. I know we got Bakken. Okay, we're at Taylor now.
Yeah, I cut somebody off though, so we got to make sure we don't lose.
We did. No, we got the Milvan Bridge. We did
this one.
We did. We got that one. We got Evangelion. Yeah. We got
okay. Making sure, Eddie.
Yes,
thank
Eddie.
you for the super chat. Appreciate you, buddy.
Thank you.
Thank you. We got Taylor here. Taylor in the house. Thank you, Taylor. You rock. Where do you think Marcion emerged from? A small Christian sect? Did he get his takes on his own? Possibly a group within early Christianity that was lost?
Ready for this? Let me start this one off. Marcion, I actually have okay. What do I want to say here? According to Orthodoxy, Marcion's father was Philologus and was one of the 70 disciples who actually met Jesus. Marcion's father. Now, if that's true, that changes everything we know about Christianity, because then we're talking about the son of one of the 70 disciples who has the 7 authentic letters of Paul and Luke and Acts in his possession, who makes the first New Testament.
Sounds like bullshit.
And he's also a Gnostic or whatever you want to call it. He's got different ideas about the gods and all this stuff. So that changes everything. The question is this accurate? Do we have evidence?
Right. I think it's BS. I think it's BS, bro.
It might be BS. Yeah.
I think they're all making up stuff in this. You know what I'm saying? Like,
but it is interesting though. Why would the Orthodoxy want to give him that pedigree? What's the point of that? It makes no sense. This is what makes me want to talk. This is what makes me talk about this as much as I do. I think it should be at least on the table.
Well, here's the other thing. I know that there's a text. I think it was Epiphanius that claims that Marcion was the son of a bishop, but he doesn't specify who that is. Now
he says where it is, though. He says the location.
Yeah, Pontus. Sinope. Yeah.
Which would have been, if you just do the math and find out the time period, it would have been Philologus.
Well, here's the interesting thing.
That's all you got. It's not that. That's basic. That's just basic.
I got a different take on that. I think if this is right, I think this is even worse. The anti-Marcionite prologue of John, which is chaotically dated, I buy the 2nd century dating for it. The anti-Marcionite prologue of John discredits the Gospel of John massively. By the way, when it says this is why I don't think this is made up, because it's very embarrassing for the author of the Gospel of John, because the text says that Marcion's heresy originated from John's Gospel, that Marcion got a lot of his ideas from reading off of John's Gospel. And you see similar ideas to the way Marcion thinks in his antithesis in John chapter 8, but especially in verse 44. But in it, John finds out about what Marcion is doing, what he's spreading. And John takes this, seems to take this as a perversion of what he taught, and he expelled Marcion from the Church of Pontus. This is chronologically before the larger expulsion under Pius I, the Bishop of Rome in 144 CE. If you take that together with the claim that Marcion was the son of a bishop, since the implication here is that John is a bishop, then how about John was the guy they were talking about? And the interesting thing is you have a much later text. I grant this text is far later, but I believe Agapius in the 10th century, who is not entirely reliable for other reasons, but there's this, I think he said, if I remember correctly, that Marcion's own father expelled him from the church. We're told that somewhere. But if you read the anti-Marcionite prologue of John together with Epiphania, with what we're told about Marcion's father being a bishop, it actually it merges together very nicely. It was not really one contradicting the other with what they're saying, what Epiphanius is saying, what the anti-Marcionite prologue is saying. They actually fit. They're complementary. So that's my take. I think Marcion's gospel was a reaction to the publications of both Luke and John, but Marcion wanted to focus more on Luke's text as the base text for his gospel. He obviously didn't choose John. But if you look at the antithesis of Marcion, theologically, there's a lot of similarities with John's theology. I'll end it there.
Well said.
I have some research to do on that. I haven't really dug into it too far.
Yeah.
You know, Bakken is back. Thank you, Bakken, for the super duper 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 super with the super duper 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 the super duper duper. Okay. All right. Josephus writes in Wars and Antiquities that the Ananias took advantage.
No.
Of death.
Okay.
Let me finish reading.
Here we go.
Just for viewers, Ananias took advantage of death of the emperor in 62 AD to kill James, the beginning of the war.
That results from, first off, thank you for the super chat, Bakken. This results from Origen misreading Josephus. He gets confused with reading Josephus and claims that Josephus stated that the death of James caused the war. Josephus never says that. That's a mistake by Origen. He made a mistake. So he misremembered part of what the passage said. Now, it is true that in the Wars of the Jews that Josephus was blaming all kinds of people, including in the Antiquities, for who caused the war. So I think Origen misremembered who Josephus was blaming who for causing the war. And sometimes he blames Justus of Tiberius, even Judas the Galilean indirectly, in a sense, for causing the war. He blames all kinds of people for causing the war, okay? He's all over the map on this. So I think Origen kind of lost track there, and he probably confused another text. Some claim he confused Hegesippus with Josephus, but regardless of how you look at it, Origen misremembered Josephus. That's clear. We have no manuscript evidence that Josephus ever blamed James for causing the war. And I'll say one more thing, just to piggyback to what I said earlier. The pseudo-Clementine recognitions, as I've said this many times, I'll continue to say this, places the attack on James, and I'm not kidding, 30 years earlier in time, nearly 30 years earlier. That's a massive discrepancy. Now, Robert Eisenman, who wants these two to be the same James, he tries to harmonize the problem by saying these are two separate attacks, which, with all due respect to Eisenman, I think this is kind of ridiculous, because it's like I'm listening to a Christian apologist argue that the explosion of Judas Iscariot in Acts can work with Judas's death in Matthew when he hung himself. But come on. So he hanged himself and he exploded at the same time. And I feel like that's the argument I'm listening to all over again when you're trying to tell me that James survived the first attack, then he got attacked again 30 years later. And you can see in the different martyrdoms of James, how many times does this guy get attacked? I'm serious. They're conflating all kinds of stuff together. He gets stoned, thrown off the pinnacle, the Fuller's Club braining the guy at the same time. Like, they actually conflate it all at the same time where it's happening in the same moment. I'm like, oh, come on, this is too much attack. This is ridiculous. Especially when you get to Jerome, he's really conflating the different attacks together. And when you go earlier, hundreds of years earlier, these attacks are split up across time, which is evidence it's not the same James. They've been slowly but surely and gradually merged together. So that's the problem. That's I keep saying this. You can't conflate these accounts because you can tell that that's exactly what they were doing. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, and one just to add icing on the cake with my recent debate that I was doing. If you go
on the axe thing,
the material in Josephus, he's going through the section about the Sicarii, and there's so much to read on this about how bad this whole assassination crap was going on. And he then again changed earlier in his own book. This isn't even in Wars. Wars, he has different thoughts. But in Antiquities, he starts blaming several separate events to say, oh, that's the reason. No. You know why God was done with the temple? Those damn Sicarii. Oh, no. It was the Judas the Galilean. Oh, no. It was, and there's so many different people who.
Wow. Sorry, I couldn't believe it. $49.99.
Yeah,
you can't just let that just sit there.
Yeah, thank you very much for that.
You got to stop what you're doing. Whenever there's a $49.99 super chat, you got to just be like,
I agree.
You got our attention. Praise the Lord. Praise to Torah. You skipped the line. You skipped the line. What do you? All right. I'm sorry, Daryl. Can I go back to what you were saying? Finish that off?
No. That was it. That's all I had.
Yeah, let's do this.
Let's take this person's super chat and we'll go back in order because this is such a heavy donation. You got to just go right to it. You know what I mean?
It's a down payment on a house. Thank you so much for that, Tor. Appreciate it.
When it comes to Gnosticism, keep in mind that we are dealing with female goddess worship or the female polarity being put back in its rightful place next to the male polarity to create balance. There is war going on, monotheism versus polytheism. You guys know what I think about this. It's almost like they're copying me, whoever wrote this. They're spot on right here. I agree 100% with what the super chat is saying. They're going back to the Eleusinian, Demeter, Persephone type of theology is being applied type of thing. I agree. Well said.
Yeah, there are forms of Gnosticism that have like, what is it, 20, 30 deities in it? I mean, it is clearly
and Sophia Zoe is the major figure. She is the big dog.
You know what I wish we had more of, though? I wish we had more Simonian Christianity. I know we have some sources, but I wish we had more because Helen shows up and you have God, a 2.0 God in the flesh with the divine feminine at his side. Like, what happened?
Simon Magus and Helen.
Yes.
Yeah, and what's so funny about that is his followers set up these statues of Zeus and Helen, or Zeus and Athena, to represent him and Helen. And he looked at the statue and he said, if anyone thinks that we are literally Zeus and Athena, that you don't understand the mysteries at all. And he's basically rebuking the idea that, no, we're not saying we are literally these gods. We are saying that we are enacting the will of these gods, or something
like
like
manifestations, so to speak. Like they thought that of Augustus. Augustus was the manifestation of Apollo. Like he was the manifestation in the flesh of the deity, but he was not They had some complex philosophy.
No, they understood what real theology was meant to be. That's what I think.
Yeah, wild. Well, I'm buying a house now. Thank you, Tora. I'm just seriously appreciate that super chat.
Really good. Really help. Yeah, thank you for that super chat. Really appreciate that.
Thank you very much, Tora. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Who's next?
We got Alan in the house. Alan D. Woods. Thank you so much for the super chat. 3 of my favorite knowledge sources. I second more streams of the 3 of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan Woods.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate that.
Really.
Very, very nice thing to say.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Gatist Abramovix. Thank
€5.
You. Would love for you to look into Arthur Bernard Cook Zeus. A study in ancient religion starts with Zeus equals sky power, not a being, then linked to solar stuff.
Sounds very interesting.
Yeah, it is very interesting.
I'll check that out for sure.
Yeah, I do know that we've done interviews like with Matthew Munger. We've talked about how back then the deities were natural phenomena, and of course later they get anthropomorphized. So be interesting to hear what this guy says. So author Bernard Cook, thank you so much, Zeus. Really appreciate that super chat. Lenny Memory, thank you for the super chat. Did the Romans have their own eschatology to map onto the Jewish ideas of the end of time?
Yes. Virgil's Eclogues, he describes the birth of a divine child who, once he is born, he will bring back the golden age of Saturn, where no one will need to work ever again. There'll be no more toil, there'll be no more wars. The lion will lay with the sheep. The lion won't even need to hunger for sheep because it'll have all his food. That's in Roman pagan religion before Christianity and Judaism.
Yeah.
And you kind of see that come together, albeit in a very garbled way, in the Sibylline oracles.
Right.
Especially in this idea that when Nero is going to come back as the leader of the Persians to sack Rome, and you have this idea that Ares is going to incarnate, he's going to ensure the destruction of Rome. So it's kind of interesting how that goes together and how that's being plugged into a Jewish Christian stream of stuff that has quasi parallels to Revelation in these Sibylline oracles was developed over a long period of time.
Yeah,
Absolutely, Jacob. You're absolutely right. The Sibylline oracles is the bridge between paganism and Judaism. I mean, you can see, you look at the Sibylline oracles, the farther back you go, the more pagan it gets, where you get the original lost fragments of the Sibyl, which is purely pagan, purely Apollonian, purely prophecy for pagan stuff. And then all of a sudden in Alexandria, around 100 BC, you start to get a Judaized version where all of a sudden it starts to talk about Noah, it starts talking about Adam and Eve, it starts mentioning things that happen in the Old Testament. And there's an introduction in the Sibylline oracles of Jewish ideas. And the Great Flood is mentioned and all this stuff. And then after late 1st, 2nd century, when you start reading the Sibylline oracles, what happens? You start getting Christian idea. You start getting the birth of Christ under the reign of Augustus. And then eventually, after time goes on, 15th century I'm talking about, it's the Sibylline oracles is a purely Christian composition by that time period. And it's dealing with Islam as the Antichrist and all this. The Christians have completely taken over the Sibylline oracles. So,
yeah. Thank you so much, Lenny. Appreciate that. Bakken back again. I would love for you guys to read Josephus' works with commentary and other works in their entirety. To see what you guys can give insight on.
That would be a huge project, but I would I'd be down to do something like the Jewish War, not as long as Antiquities, and it deals strictly with a specific time period. I mean, to do the Antiquities would be a huge project, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, that's huge. I mean, even just barely scratching the surface, talking to Steve Mason and trying to wrap my head around how Luke Acts used Josephus. My gosh, when you have someone say Luke's the better historian, when Luke has the better accurate historical account of things, and then you go see his 20 volumes, how exhausted this guy is on all this information, even if he is propagandistic, to me, there's so much more. And that's why I think Steve Mason's case is, I mean, just to echo this point about my recent debate, that debate, I took on a vertical uphill battle because 99%, to Bakken's point, 99% of people who watch don't even know Josephus, have never read these passages. So how do you convince someone of something they've never actually read? They don't have the background knowledge on it. They don't understand why he would have been the primary source as the historical bedrock behind the ideas and concepts you would see in Luke Acts. That's hard to do, and nearly impossible to do in a debate. I think that's absolutely what we should do, though, is understand it in more depth, and that's why I love having Steve Mason on speed dial. You know what I mean? and recommendations from him. So thank you.
Absolutely, Derek. Well said.
Thank you. Tracy in the house. What's up, Tracy? Oh, go ahead.
I know. Read it out. I got ready for this one.
Well, on this?
Yeah, I'm gonna just read it so I can get.
Yeah. Let's rock on.
Thoughts on just in case anyone's listening. Thoughts on Vespasian as a Christ. When I saw the super chat, I immediately went and found it. Exactly what you're talking about, Tracy. Because whoever Tracy is, Tracy, I love your super chats. You're always on the same page as me. So it's what Tracy is getting at is from Tacitus. This is a well-known source in Book 5. And let's just read it real quick. Let's just read what's going on here, right? It says, prodigies had indeed occurred, but to avert them either by victims or by vows is held unlawful. But by the way, you see, okay, cool. You can see my screen. All right, let me continue. Unlawful by people which through prone to superstition is opposed to all propitiatory rites. Contending hosts were seen. Listen to this. Hold on. Pause. Pay attention to what I'm about to say. This is fucking crazy. Tacitus says, contending hosts were seen meeting in the skies.
Mm-hmm.
What?
Yeah, omens.
Visae per calum skies concurre equies. What the hell is he saying? Contending hosts were seen meeting in the skies, arms flashed, and suddenly the temple was illumined with fire from the clouds. Of a sudden, the doors of the shrine opened, and a superhuman voice cried, "The gods are departing."
The gods, plural.
What is the word he uses here? He says, where is the, wait, is it on the next page? The gods are departing. Is it on the next page? Wait a minute. What's the Latin? I'm trying to see what the Latin he uses here. He says, oh, that's right here. Right here. Vox excedere Deus. The gods are exiting. The gods are exiting, he's saying. What? Okay, at the same moment, as they heard this voice in the skies, at the same moment, a mighty stir of their going was heard. Few interpreted these omens as fearful. The majority firmly believe that their ancient priestly Levite, writings contain the prophecy that this was the very time when the East, you guys know what this is, right? Leviticus. At the star of the East will rise out of Jacob. Mm-hmm. Leviticus. And so the priestly Levites contain the prophecy that this was the very time when the East should grow strong, and that men starting from Judea should possess the world. The Jews would take over the world. That's the prophecy. This mysterious prophecy had in reality not pointed to the Jews, but points to Vespasian and Titus. Mm-hmm. The common people, as the way of human ambition, interpreted these great destinies in their own favor and could not be turned to the truth, even by adversity. That's pretty much
Josephus echoed the same thing.
Yeah, huh? Josephus. Yeah, yes, Derek. Josephus did echo a similar thing.
Yeah.
I know there's a dispute. I know some will argue that Josephus he's not super specific on Vespasian being viewed as the Messiah, but what he does clearly state is that Vespasian is the one who was foretold to come. That's talked about somewhere in the Old Testament. So he said that the oracles had prophesied that Vespasian would come. And so he does use, at the very least, Messianic language with Vespasian. And you can interpret it as him saying that I talked with Tom Schmidt, T.C. Schmidt, about this. And when I first spoke to him about it, he said he never heard of the idea before, and he was quite amazed by it, to a point that he might even cite me. And the point that I made to him is, the Christ, you notice in the testimonium, Josephus said, in Christu was Christ, not estin Christu, not is the Christ. So he's not saying present tense, he's saying in the past tense, he was the Christ, which I think was something that would have irritated Origen of Alexandria, which he was irritated because Josephus did not believe that Jesus is the Christ in the present tense. So it makes sense for him to use present tense language with Vespasian as being the one who currently is the present moment actually is. So that's the point that I made there. And I think that the way Josephus talks about Titus's Roman soldiers, like, oh, I saw them running in the clouds. Now, I'm not saying he is the Son of Man. Okay, so I don't want to be misunderstood here. I'm not claiming this. But the way Titus is described by Josephus, it's like the Son of Man in Daniel.
Fair point.
It's like
dude.
that.
You're actually, and look, there's nothing wrong with what you're doing here. You're pulling up primary sources from Josephus, from Tacitus, and you're going, there really are primary sources that suggest that people thought that these messianic prophecies were applied to Vespasian and his son. There's nothing wrong with that.
Well, Josephus specifically says that my countrymen believed that the prophecy was supposed to apply to one of our own kindred. However, he then applies it to Vespasian. But the one cool thing I get out of this, and we should move on because guess what? We got another 50 bomb. I just want to mention, Livy reported in 218 BCE, before the Second Punic War, a phantom navy was seen shining in the sky over Rome. Plutarch describes citizens in the towns of Maria and Tudor witnessing flaming spears and shields clashing in the heavens in 104 BCE. Pliny the Elder recorded the same event, but added that people heard the noise of armies and trumpets in the sky. There's all sorts of omens and stuff like this with wars in the heavens. So it seems to be a well-known, I would say, propagandistic / fearful phenomena that comes around war times that literary authors, maybe even the people, believe they see things and omens and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, we can't leave the constellation hanging.
Constellation, Pegasus. Oh my God!
Thank you for another massive super chat, Constellation.
Remember,
I love it.
Aaron and Dare on about the last 3 stars. I have a family member who was a mathematician with NASA who worked on Project Apollo, retired now, of course.
Wow.
I want Adair's update on Webb. We got you. We got to
make that happen.
Get Aaron Adair on about class. Yeah, you know what? It's been a while since I had Aaron on, and I like Aaron. We had that one video where we clashed. I got about mythicism. But Aaron is a good friend of mine, and we can have people didn't understand how that people thought that was like a seriously like fight or something. It was just 2 people disagreeing. Like, can't the internet see 2 people disagree about something and even get heated? Who cares? We can get heated about something. Doesn't mean after the conversation is over with we hate each other or something. Or no. And I thought it was a good conversation. People thought it was like a heated conversation. I thought the opposite. Anyways, Aaron is a science guy, so I definitely want to talk to him about what's going on. I think you're right. I think we should reach out to the scientific world and have more content. Have more content based on science than just theology.
Absolutely. Constellation.
Especially when Constellation's dictating what we should do. I mean, if he's dropping 50 bombs on us, I'm listening.
I'm listening too.
I'm listening all day.
You got my attention. Evangelium, thank you for the super chat. What do you guys think of the thesis that the Roman Empire still exists today via Orthodox, Catholic, and loosely Protestant Christianity, Vatican-based?
My bad. I didn't mean to click on that. I just saw that one. Go ahead. What do you think about the thesis that the Roman Empire still exists? Look,
it's vestigial.
This is so funny. This is so funny that Evangelium asked this question because recently I was sort of reading up on the early medieval period, and I was reading about the Franks, and how they rose up from the ashes of the Western Roman Empire amidst the Gothic paradigm, the Visigoths, the Ostrogoths, the Vandals, and then the Lombards come down and take over for a little bit. But then the Franks rise up. And what the Franks do is they talk about themselves as Romans. They don't talk about themselves as Franks, as something different. They use the same titles and the same offices that you would find in Latin Roman Empire lingo. So the Franks start to call themselves Romans, and they call themselves emperors. And you get people like Charlemagne, who says he's the emperor of the Romans. And what's even funny about this, you even have Eastern Orthodox bishops who say, yes, that's my emperor. Because at the same time, there was Irene, who was a woman who was the empress. And they didn't like that. They were like, we don't want an empress, we want an emperor. Charlemagne is cool as hell. Let's have him be our emperor. So the point I'm trying to say is the Roman Empire, as much as we like to say the Western Empire died in 476 and the Eastern Empire survives until 1453, you can actually make the argument that the Western Empire revived itself right around 900 AD and survives all the way until the time of Napoleon, which is what we call the Holy Roman Empire. And Voltaire is famous. Voltaire is a historian who's famous for saying the Holy Roman Empire, it's not holy, it's not Roman, and it's not an empire. I think he's wrong. People take that as gospel today. When you actually look at what the Holy Roman Empire is doing, it's adopting the same Roman offices, the same presence, the same culture. It's trying to be Roman. And what happens is Napoleon, who defeats the Holy Roman Empire, the Germans, the First Reich, if you will. There's the First Reich, Second Reich, Third Reich, Fourth Reich. The First Reich was the Holy Roman Empire. Napoleon defeats the First Reich, and he just destroys the Germans and ends the Holy Roman Empire. But what does he do? He anoints himself as the emperor. So, and by the way, we're still living under Napoleon's paradigm right now. Constitutional republics, democratic, this sort of liberal world that we're under right now, that's Napoleon, Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, late 1700s, early 1800s. We're under that paradigm right now. And Napoleon thought of himself as the Roman emperor, maybe the last Roman emperor. So the point I'm trying to make is we are the sons, we are the daughters, we are the children of the Roman Empire in the West. I truly think that's a valid thing to say.
Thank you so much, Evangelion. Appreciate that. We got GJW Pang. Thoughts on Paulus of Tyre, Acts of the Pagan Martyrs, being the original author of the genuine Pauline epistles? Seems likely with a later dating. I have never heard of. I haven't read this.
Paulus of Tyre. That I don't know about that.
No, that doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, I mean,
no.
You read this one, Jacob?
It sounds vaguely familiar. I don't want to say too much about it.
4th century at that time.
But what I'll say is this is like somebody saying that Paulus Josephus nonsense. And I was just
it's worse than that. No offense.
It does sound worse.
I appreciate the Canadian super chat. Look, I mean this with no offense, but we're talking 4th century when Paulinus of Tyre lived, and we already have citations of Paul's epistles in 2nd century sources.
So, by the way, real quick, before we jump the gun here, these are papyrus fragments, mostly from Egypt, dating from the 1st through 3rd centuries of the Common Era, that record or fictionalize the trials and executions of Alexandrian Greek citizens before Roman emperors. The genre is striking. The texts adopt the narrative format of legal trials in which representatives of Alexandria definitely assert their rights and are summarily punished with torture and even execution for their presumption. Now it goes down. It says, Paul of Tyre specifically, in one of these texts, Alexandrian Greeks appear before the emperor accompanied by a certain Paul of Tyre, who is their advocate, while a rival delegation of 7 Jews appears on the other side. The 2 delegations are described as carrying their own gods. The Alexandrians were carrying a bust of the god Serapis, while what the Jews carried is lost in a lacuna. though most scholars believe they brought a Torah scroll, which the pagan felt they treated as something divine. The more developed text is the Acta Pauli et Antonini Musurilo's text 9.
Huh?
It's some later thing, it seems.
Yeah, but what does it have to do with? Because Paulus of Tyre lived in the 4th century.
Yeah, I'm talking about this manuscript. They're saying the Acta Alexandrinorium, Acts of Pagan Martyrs. It appears in that this guy Paul of Tyre appears in this material somewhere between the 1st and 3rd centuries.
How does he?
I need to look into it.
Yeah, I'm saying, how does he? If this guy lived in the 4th century, how did he appear in 1st century sources?
Great question.
All right. Well, whatever.
Yeah,
listen,
I need to look it up.
JW Peng P. Look it. I'm gonna look into what you're saying.
Yeah,
we'll check it out.
Let me just say one thing fast. So the Pseudo-Clementine Recognitions, which is a mid-2nd century text, does not say anything about Paul or Saul, the man that attacked James, being from Tyre. And First Clement, which is our earliest reference to a historical Paul of any kind that we got, makes no mention of this either. So again, this, as I said earlier, you got to be careful here and not conflate different Pauls. I know it can be confusing, especially when you have texts that are actually engaging in the conflation, but this just doesn't work. But that's all I got to say. Thank you for the super chat, though.
Yeah, thank you. Let me see. Oh, we already got this one. Okay. Matthew Clark, thank you so much for the super chat. Hey, Neil, please do a show with Archaic. Is it Archaics? How do you pronounce that?
Archaics.
Archaics also thought that Revelation is Sibylline as well. Well, it definitely shares Sibylline overlaps with a lot of material.
Yeah, I talked about some of that earlier. You know.
Well, it definitely shares
Sibylline. Can I play this?
Overlaps with a lot of material.
Yeah, I talked about some of that earlier.
Can I play a clip real quick?
Shares.
Can I play this?
Overlaps.
Yeah.
A lot of material.
No, I'll mute myself.
Earlier.
Can I play a clip real quick?
Shares.
What the hell? Can I play this?
I'm hearing myself.
Stop sharing.
I'll mute myself.
Stop sharing. I had to stop sharing, bro. I'm hearing like inception.
Hold on. Wrong clip. I got to go to the right. Hold on. I got to go to the right clip.
What was that, bro?
That was the wrong clip. Okay. I'm sorry. Hold on.
A glitch in the matrix.
Hold on. Let me go to the right clip real quick. All right. Here we go. All right. Can I share my screen real quick?
Can I play this? No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
Yeah. Can I share my screen?
Yeah.
All right. And this is just to answer the super chat, what I think about the Sibylline oracles real quick.
No echo.
The Sibylline oracles, texts written in hexameter prose, are a wide-ranging phenomenon that is said to stretch back to the Oracle of Delphi and spread throughout the Hellenistic world into Asia Minor, Mesopotamia, Judea, North Africa, and Italy. The Sibyl was at first depicted as an aged woman with the gift of prophecy, and that there were 12 of them: the Persian Sibyl, the Libyan Sibyl, Delphic Sibyl, Cimmerian, Erythraean, Samian, Cumaean, Hellespontine, Phrygian, Turbotine, Egyptian, and Chaldean Sibyl. Some lists replace the Persian Sibyl with the Hebrew Sibyl. Legend had it that the Cumaean Sibyl, close to Rome, was 1,000 years old and had given her books to the 5th king of Rome, an Etruscan king named Tarquinius Priscus, grandson of Numa Populus, who succeeded Romulus. These oracles were entrusted to the priesthood of Jupiter to be guarded by the Vestal Virgins and only consulted in times of crisis.
Watch this.
Regardless of the truth of their origins, these books became central to the religion of Rome during the Republic era. Like the prophets of the Old Testament, these Sibyls predicted future catastrophic events and the demise of major cities by God. These texts were most likely used as a form of political propaganda to sway public opinion during times of war.
Big deal.
From the 3rd century BC to the 1st century, we see a mixture of Greek and Jewish themes present in these texts. Specifically in Alexandria, Egypt, where a large Jewish and Greek population coexist. It is here in Alexandria where the collection of all 12 Sibyls are gathered and put into one collection. They show both Jewish and pagan influence, everything from Hesiod themes of the golden age of Saturn, Homeric epics like the Iliad, predictions of Romulus, Cyrus the Great, Alexander the Great, Caesar Augustus, as well as references to gods like Ares, Kronos, Aphrodite, Zeus, and the Titans versus the Olympians, all the way to stories about Noah's Ark, the Tower of Babel, Moses getting the tablet on Mount Sinai.
You know this is the origin of Christianity right here. You know
Virgil is mentioned in the Sibylline
I think the Sibyl is the origin
as
of
a great
Christianity.
teacher
I do think that.
Sent by God to teach the world. And Virgil himself cites the Sibylline books in his Aeneid and mentions Diphobe as the Cumaean Sibyl.
Almost done. Just want to show one more thing. Right here.
To show some passages
Derek's jump in right now.
the third Sibylline oracle, to give you an idea
Derek, you're about to
of
jump
what
in.
it's like.
But he, eternal Lord, proclaims himself as one who
That's
is
you, Derek.
and
Yeah.
was and shall
Dude, how
be.
many of these have you
To
had to
hear the
do?
only name of
A
heaven's
lot.
great God, the ruler
No, watch
of
this.
the
This
world.
is a huge point. I'm
He,
about
by
to
his
make.
logos, created
Wait.
all things.
So this is an actual
even
version of the
Ouranos
Sibylline
and
oracles. Ready?
Thasala, and tireless Helios.
So watch this.
And full Selene and bright Astraeus, and mighty mother Tethys, springs and rivers, imperishable fire, and Hemera and Nyx. This is the God,
who formed the
four-letter
Adam.
Adam, the first one formed and filling with his name Anatoly, Hesperides, Notos, and Boreas. The same as he who fixed the pattern of the human form and made wild beast and creeping things
Now watch
and
this.
fowls.
Damn, that guy's
Sibylline
voice
Oracles
badass.
3.
Now watch
Notice
this.
the blend between pagan and Jewish elements and how the creator includes the many gods within his creation of the world.
Watch how Revelation is portrayed.
This type of genre can also be seen along the book of Revelation. For example,
Then I saw a great
Same
white
characters.
throne and him who is seated
See the
on it.
yellow
Gaia
words?
and
Those are the same
Uranus
characters we
fled
just
from
saw.
his presence, and there was no place for them. And I saw the dead, great and small, standing before the throne, and books were opened. Another book was opened, which is the book of life. The dead were judged according to what they have done, as recorded in the books.
Thasala,
gave up the dead that were in it,
Thanatos, Hades.
and Thanatos and Hades
All right, you
gave
get
up
the point. All right.
Yeah, no, I get it. And if someone's looking for a book that also touches on this, John Dominic Crossan's book, Render Unto Caesar, he covers this topic in Revelation and actually goes and shows the Sibylline oracles not only deal with this stuff, the same language, same gods come up and such, which they've obviously couched it into this apocalyptic material we call the John on the island of Patmos Revelation. But he talks about the beast. He talks about Nero as the freaking beast. He talks about Rome. He talks about all sorts of stuff. And you can see that whoever this guy is that wrote this knows the Sibylline oracles.
Yes.
He is working off the same tradition.
Why do you think I love John Dominic Crossan so much?
I know, bro. I know. And he's 97. He lives.
He knows his shit, bro.
Bro,
He
he's
knows,
right down the street from you.
He knows what the F is going on with these texts. He knows what the, and he just accepts it. And he's one of the Christians that I cannot defeat.
I love the guy.
Talk about, you want, people say this all the time. Like, is there a Christian out there who you can't defeat? And like, is it Jay Dyer? Is it Andrew Wilson? Is it, whatever? No, it's John Dominic freaking Crossan, dude. There's nothing I can say to defeat that guy.
I love him.
He figured it all out. He understands. He gets the pagan influence and he owns it.
Yeah, you know what? You know why we can't? There's no reason to. Is that you sit and talk to him, and he's like, "Oh no, the resurrection? No, that's symbolic. That's a symbol of something deeper, And it's not." He goes, he plays by the rules of evolution. He always talks about that, but then he's like, but there's something more to it for him, and I don't knock that. You think I give a shit? I don't give a shit, dude. Like,
he's too good, bro.
Yeah, he knows his stuff, bro. By the way,
you can't fuck with that guy. Can't fuck with that guy,
bro. He's getting up there in age, and he has already like wandered through all of the Roman world, the Greek world, the holy.
He just wrote a book like a month, like a year ago.
Well, he has like 2-3 terabytes of footage and images of things that are in like the archives, Vatican Library, all sorts of stuff. And I said, look, John, if you have to kick the bucket, as they say, I hope we can have access to seeing some of this stuff, because he has taken pictures of things you can't get on the internet. You can't find it. It's in-person photographs of stuff that haven't been disclosed. And I'd love to get access to that.
Well, yeah, perfect. Well said.
Anyway. All right. Here we are.
By the way, real quick, we have 1,400 live viewers right now across all platforms. Listen, we got to do more of these, dude, between us three.
Yeah.
Yes.
It'd be cool to have a fourth, but we don't have anybody that's immersed as us three have been with each other. I can't think of anybody.
I don't know. Probably come up with someone.
We could come up with someone, but I'm just saying it's got to be someone really good, because right now this is the only three I can think of.
We're vibing.
We need to do these more often.
Absolutely.
1,400 live viewers, and they're all dropping supers. They're all giving support. I could do this all day.
I could use some love on my side. I think I got one super out of the whole damn thing.
Really? I'm not even paying attention to who's going where.
Yeah, because we're cross-contaminated here.
I think Jacob has the most right now.
Jacob's winning, dude.
Yeah.
Jacob is winning, kicking our ass.
Yeah, I had several big ones on my end.
Jacob's getting rich off this.
Good on you.
No, but Jacob, seriously, regardless of who's getting what, this has been fun.
Absolutely.
And I'm just looking at the top number. I'm not looking at who's making what. I'm looking at the top number. 1,400 people watching this right now.
1,500 people. Share this out.
That's all I care about
right now, or
that's
else
what's important.
Nero's coming back, and he's destroying us if you don't share this right now.
And as you said that, I just got one.
Same here.
Who did I get? Back in Pan Dionysus in the house. My friend, I love you. I love you.
Absolutely.
All right. So we'll get to that one in a second. All right. What's the next one?
All right. Next one is from Taylor. No, hold up. Yep. Taylor. Why is Marcion, thank you for the super chat, emerging with this anti-Yahweh ideas in a Jewish cult where we don't see it with others that early? Is this his own revelation? Do you think he's preserving something else from another sect?
Great fucking question right there.
Yeah, it is.
That is a high IQ question. I'm telling you right now. That is a high, because where does this idea come from? This is such a good idea, a good question. And I think Marcion is being influenced by his Platonist education, that God, the eternal God, the one from Plato, has to be perfect and he can't be jealous. You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're raised up, educated as a Platonist, Pythagorean, Stoic, whatever it is, from some sort of Greek school, to learn about God as a figure who can't be jealous, and he's perfect, and he's virtuous, and he's the source of all good, and then you read the Old Testament, and you start seeing, what the hell? This God's literally admitting to being jealous, and he's literally going around killing little children and smashing children's heads on rocks and giving over women to his winners of the wars because they whatever. All types of nonsense, all types of human sacrificial stuff going on. And you have to think and go, based on my education, this is not the one. This is not the supreme God. This is a lower daimonic, terrestrial daimon, earthly God. And then you go, what's going on in the Old Testament is you got two gods going on. You got the supreme God who created the world in 7 days. And then you got this other deity named Yahweh who thinks he's the supreme God, but he's really just a terrestrial daimon.
You mean he only rules the land of Eden?
That's it. He's a terrestrial daimon.
It says Deuteronomy 32 says he inherited Israel from the Ha El Elyon, the Most High God.
Yeah, there you go. So there you go. Marcion read that and said, "There we go. That question answered." And then you get Marcion theology from good scholar. I think Marcion was the first good scholarship of the Bible.
Interesting. He's the first canon. I know that.
He's the first New Testament. He's the first scholar of the Bible. That's what I think happened. Anyone who studies the Bible can come away going, there's something wrong with this perfect God idea. Right?
I think so.
Yeah.
What were we going to say, Jacob?
Well, I was going to say that I agree with you, Neil, that Marcion was definitely influenced by Platonic ideas. I think what was going on is he was being mainly influenced by Platonic thought and the Gospel of John. Because especially in John 8:4:4, and I definitely think it played a big role in the way he wrote the antithesis. And this is a huge problem because the way that some people use this verse today in very ugly ways, and John 8:4:4, when it states that Jews are sons of the devil. And what Marcion is like, oh, that's evidence that the Old Testament God is bad person. Jesus is son of a good God. Oh, wow, that's a gigantic
shiz
super chat.
Holy,
I gotta speed up my answer really fast.
Who got this? Jacob got this.
Me. Yes.
Right. What?
Constellation.
So big.
You could have did 4 different super chats of 50, bro.
I haven't had constellation.
Come on, man.
Once.
No, listen, Jacob. Hold on, no. Let me.
Yeah, let's take it. Let's go ahead. I'll finish later.
Jacob, you did deserve you. This is good that you got this, bro. Yeah, you needed a little boost in your algo, in your, in whatever you got. I'm glad that you gave it to Jacob. I'm just saying. But that's a lot to drop on one person. I'm just saying.
Look, that's a lot. You're gonna witness.
Love you, bro.
I'm so grateful. Thank you.
Starving people for food. Give me some of that food.
Yeah, drop it, thrice that up a little bit, chop it up a little bit.
Oh
no, Jacob, no, you deserved it though. Good, read it up.
So he's saying that thing about Vespasian being a Christ isn't new. My Tanakh Isaiah commentary says that Cyrus was supposed to be the anointed one. God told Cyrus to build the temple, but let others do it. He could have been revealed as the Messiah, and the temple would have stood forever. Page 1033 in my Tanakh. And that's interesting because, Cyrus, the way Cyrus is discussed in the Old Testament does parallel the way that we're being told about Vespasian in Josephus, Tacitus, and in other texts about Vespasian being, he's the one that we're supposed to be, he's the prophet that was supposed to come. He's the one the oracles we're talking about. We were wrong. It wasn't somebody from our own land. Yeah. Or he is the Messiah. The Messiah is not going to be native born. He's going to be a foreigner, just like Cyrus was. So that Cyrus is comparable to Vespasian, absolutely. They're very similar. The difference, of course, is that Vespasian, of course, is the one that waged war against Judea and the temple was destroyed, whereas Cyrus was the liberator, ironically. So it's kind of an inversion there. So Cyrus there are major differences. Cyrus liberates them, whereas Vespasian is the one that's maintained the occupation. But the Messianic language that's being applied to Vespasian is supposed to justify why they should remain under his heel.
Yes. And in fact, you can see how this idea of Vespasian becoming a Christ comes from the archetype of an outsider being Vespasian, or being Cyrus. So the idea of non-Jew being Messiah isn't new. You already have Cyrus being a Messiah. So the idea that Vespasian can be a Messiah is not something that's out of the ordinary. You could have a non-Jew being a Messiah. But I think what happens is you have to be clear on why he's a Messiah. He's enacting what Jesus, according to the Gospels, I'm not saying this is actually what he said. According to the Gospels, he predicted that the temple would be destroyed. So it doesn't matter if this was written in 70, doesn't matter if it's written in 75, it doesn't matter if it's written in 90. The point is, when Tacitus is writing this, or when Josephus is writing this, the idea of Titus destroying the temple is enacting the will of the Messiah of destroying the temple. that make sense?
Absolutely. And the fact that he did destroy it. So there's something messianic about him having the capacity to do it. See, a Messiah wasn't someone who just said, oh, something's going to happen. That's a prophet. A Messiah is going to do it. And so he's a doer. He ain't a talker. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And he did. And that's why Vespasian, I think, in logically concluding, because he believes his scripture, said, that's the dude. You're the dude. I mean, there's no other way to explain it. You must be the dude. And he got rid of the bad guys. Mind you, when you read Josephus, he talks, there's a ton of people he's not fans of that are super messianic. He's not a fan of the kind of philosophies, the heresies, the schools of philosophy that are coming in amongst the Jews. The three that he had some respect for were the Essenes, the Pharisees, and the Sadducees. But there were these other philosophies. He's like, screw them. Screw these philosophies. And so I imagine he saw Vespasian as cleaning up shop as a Messiah figure to try and restore things.
Yeah, well said.
You know,
yeah, he's fulfilling the messianic prophecy.
Right.
So whatever you want to call him, little m, big M, it doesn't really matter. He's part of the process of the messianic figure, if you will.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree with you both. Yeah.
Constellation. I don't know. You're deified. You are officially deified amongst the three of us.
Absolutely.
Yeah, again, thank you for so much of that.
Everybody bow.
Massive.
We must bow.
Massive super chat.
I am bowing to your ass. Literally, you deserve. Let me light a candle. Hold on. All right. Seriously, Constellation, we really appreciate you. That was freaking awesome to have you pop in like that.
Absolutely.
Nicole up in the house with a super. Just needed to vent. Got built up of West Huff frustration. Feel better now. Thanks for listening.
I cannot stand West Huff's nonsense.
All you gotta do is watch Derek's channel, and you'll be healed from the West Huff frustration.
Oh, dude, I've been
watch Derek's last 10 videos, and you'll be healed from the West Huff frustration.
He stains the word comfortably, and that's like his favorite word in his vocabulary. Comfortably. Like he uses that word so much. God. If I have $1 every time he said it.
Or he literally doesn't care. He continues to say the word of God has been preserved miraculously.
Yeah.
He continues to say this phrase, regardless of any scholar coming to him and saying, bro, you realize that Isaiah scroll is the same preservation as Homer? Like Homer has 90% preserved through the manuscript tradition. The same manuscripts of Homer are the same. Like you're not, it's nothing miraculous going on there, bro.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I picked this apart too, and I just thought, man, I was thinking hard about what other analogy, what other example, and then, dude, I just thought about the ancient Mesopotamian tablets. I'm like, bro, we have the original scribes, the original, not the copies of the copies of the copies. You know, anyway, there's
you have the fucking the inscription in clay
by the original priest who jabbed it on there.
Yeah, like does that make it real though? Oh my god!
The way he argues is he tries to pretend that he takes the consensus dating on the four gospels, but then he'll say something like, "Well, Mark was written in the 50s or 60s comfortably, Matthew in the 70s, 80s comfortably, Luke about the same time, John in the 90s." And the eyewitnesses, they're eyewitness texts and they fit. They just got delayed in writing it down. I'm like, oh, you got to be kidding me.
Bro, he was arguing for like 45 AD for like Mark or something.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. And I mean, I know there actually is a handful of scholars that do argue it that early, but I don't even understand that.
Under a handful of critical scholars.
I know. And that's being kind.
But then he said Acts is like 40, 50 something. I don't know, bro. It was like, hey, look, I'll tell you this, Nicole. We got to move to the next one because we got a ton. But hear me out. I got some more Wes Huff coming. Because here's the deal. The guy's getting, I mean, bro, he's on every single podcast.
I think his YouTube channel has almost 1 million subs now.
Absolutely. And when you see a big name like that spreading bullshit, hit him. Go for it. I'm doing that. I got a William Lane Craig video on Dying and Rising Gods coming. This guy is baloney too. I mean, there's a lot of
the three of us should do a collaboration video about Wes Huff. We have never done a video together all about him. We should do it.
We should absolutely.
We really should.
Maybe we'll do it for you, Nicole. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Linda. Thank you for the super chat. There was no writing attached, but you're somebody's member as well, so we appreciate that.
You.
Yeah. James Washington, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate you. No writing.
Did I miss anything for me?
No, just
okay.
Generic super chats here. James Washington again for the super chat. You guys are the Holy Trinity. For me. I thought they were doing something funny with the word, but yeah, the Holy Trinity for you. Well, look, you're all we're Hindus here with you, and all of
maybe
you are
he meant the only, kind of merging only and holy into the same word.
Yeah, that's probably what they were doing. Thank you, James.
Thank you.
Yeah. Steve M 1984. Thank you for the super chat. If the genuine Paul letters are later, is it conceivable that the letters and Mark are companion pieces?
Let me say something about that, because that's an excellent question. Thank you for that super chat. I actually think that the person called Mark that wrote the gospel probably knew the person that wrote the pseudo-Pauline text. They put the epistles that were not written by Paul. I can conceptually see that, because the way it would work is that he could pretend to live in the time of the original Paul, the real guy. And the same thing could have happened with Luke. But that still doesn't change the fact that they weren't actually working with the original OG Paul. It doesn't change anything. It just means they were working with the person who was pretending to be Paul in the epistles in the New Testament. That's all that would mean. It still would not contradict the view that many standard scholars hold, that they weren't actually traveling with the OG Paul.
Yeah, I think there's some relationship between Mark and Paul's pieces. I think I think there's a lot of scholars that have highlighted this, and it is conceivable. I have a hypothesis that I'm not saying I believe, but I'm throwing it at the wall. And you, since you wonderful humans here are taking care of all of us here to do what we do, I might as well just throw it out there. I'll make it quick. And it may not be the case. This may not be true, but what do you think? The Gospel of Mark takes an absolute turd on the 12 apostles. Okay. Yes, they're chosen. I get it. But every time they don't get it. They don't understand. They don't follow him. Oh, I'll follow you to the death, Lord. And then he denies him 3 times. Oh, who considered you right and your left? None of them. Because at the end, 2 thieves, really, they stay, which I think are actually, these are like bandits who are part of the insurrection, are on his side. So here's the problem. They don't get it. The gospel ends abruptly with, well, go and tell them he'll meet him in Galilee. And yet the women don't tell them. They tell no one. So then the question is this a slam on the 12? Is this an anti-12 gospel that goes in line with the split that goes on between Paul and the other super apostles? Yeah. Speculation, but throwing spaghetti at the wall. Thanks so much.
Let me say this.
Yeah.
I wanted to elaborate a little bit more. So the way I argue is I've actually argued that Papias, and I believe I brought this up in a previous episode with you, Derek, that I don't think that Papias's Peter is actually the original Peter. I'm not convinced that really is him. I think it's just somebody else. It's not like Peter was the name of one person ever. And you see Mark is referred to as the son of Peter in one of the Petrine epistles. I can't remember off the top of my head if it's 1st or 2nd Peter, but one of them mentions that Mark is the son of Peter. And you see that that Mark in Papias's writing, he tells us that Mark was writing down what Peter said to him. That's what he's saying. And so I think there's a relationship there. And what I think is that 1st and 2nd Peter served as a bridge between the canonical 13 letters and the Gospel of Mark. So I think that's what's going on. And the Petrine epistles were created to defend the 13 Pauline letters, because in 2nd Peter it talks about epistoles, so that's the reference to all the letters. And I think the reason 2nd Peter says that is because in First Clement, it says epistolon, a letter. So Second Peter is, in a sense, polemically responding against Clement by saying, no, let me be clear. There are letters, not a letter. I mean letters.
Well said.
And I'm working with Mark over here. And you can believe this is actually happening in like the 90s and early 2nd century, which is when I think it's happening.
By the way, go ahead, finish that.
But I'm almost done. But the way they're doing it is they kind of want people to think that they are living earlier in time when they're not. They're conflating themselves with earlier people. And so that's what I think is going on here.
I just want to say I'm proud of fucking Jacob.
Yeah.
I don't agree with everything Jacob says, but I can say this with strong confidence. Jacob, when he says something, he has looked into it. He does his research. He's digging into this stuff. He has legitimate credibility when it comes to these things. Jacob, I'm proud of you, dude.
Thank you, Neil. And I the feeling is mutual with you and Derek. You both have done a lot of great work yourselves. Definitely.
Well, this is how the divine triad right here. Spirit. I was just about to say, bro, this is it.
We should do these once a month at least, if not more.
Yeah, at
I
least.
agree.
Steve, we love you. Thank you for the super chat. Really, though, seriously appreciate the love.
Thank you.
Gatis Abromovix, thank you so much again. Take Christianity is astrotheology, utilizing Greek myths of the zodiac and continuing sun worship. Fun to go down this road. Much thanks for the streams.
I think we're right.
This. I love this idea.
Because
just don't know
astrotheology is meant to be esoteric. It's not. It's not meant to be. It's not meant to be clear that it's happening. So when a character, for example, walks the road, he walks down a road and takes the third left and moves up to the road to the second right. When something like that happens in a text, you don't know astrotheology is being presented. You're not supposed to know. It's supposed to be cryptic. So that's why I love when people super chat with astrotheology theories, because we can't prove them or disprove them. They're in the text. We just don't know they're there. That's the point of astrotheology. It's supposed to be cryptic.
That's the fun of it. I agree with Gaddis here. And I think that at the end of the day, that my problem with it and my joy with it is it can make a lot of sense of things, but you can't prove any of it. You really can't prove. You can get really close, I think, with people like Samson. The sun, his name means sun, and Jesus being the center and all this stuff. And you see zodiacs, all this stuff. But like, if you're trying to like methodologically nail it, there's no way. It's a super subjective kind of, like you said, esoteric thing. And I do think there's something to it. I do. I just can't prove it.
I will say this though. If you want to find if you really want to find out astrotheology, got to go get this book right here. Eratosthenes and Hyginus. It's from Oxford. Constellations and Myths. Eratosthenes, you can see it, and Hyginus or Hyginus.
You're gonna have to type that in the chat, bro. It's dark as hell in your room.
You can't see it,
dude. I can see something flying on your page. That's about all I can see.
I can barely see constellation myths, but I see it.
The closer I get, the darker it gets.
Black. You put it in the black. It's like. Look at me. Ready? Watch. All right, guys. Check out my chin hairs right now. Like, bro.
Okay. All right. Well, anyways, Eratosthenes, the man who proved the Earth is not flat. The same. I'm not kidding. I'm not even joking. The Earth flat was debunked by this guy right here. Also, this guy wrote a bunch of astrotheology shit.
Interesting.
I'm telling you, it's one of the most valuable books you're ever going to buy. Eratosthenes and Hyginus from Oxford World Classics. And you can use this as a guide to do your astrotheological arguments. Just throwing that out there.
Next super chat is Bakken again. Good to see you, my friend, again. Why hasn't then been talk about Clement's Nazarene Acts of the Apostles or the Damascus documents? Why haven't the Essenes been taken more seriously?
Well, back and thank you for the super chat.
Great super chat, by the way.
I know some try to hypothesize a Jewish Acts of the Apostles that's like pre-Clementine. But again, I do not like hypothetical documents that we just don't have. What the evidence that I accept for a text existing that is lost is external evidence. Like if we have ancient witnesses, because it's often the case, and we see this often with church fathers and other ancient authors. They'll refer to a text and quote from it significantly, a text that we do not have manuscript evidence of. So it's a way of knowing, okay, it existed. They're just not going to make something like that up, especially if it's a text that they don't like. But these attempts to try to date pieces of Acts to be older. You also see this with the We document, which is another hypothetical text that can't be proven to exist. Try to date Acts earlier because it's an attempt to rescue parts of Acts as historical reliable information. And you see this with Johannine scholarship as well. Like, oh, I can magically detect 5 different proto-Johns that were been squeezed together by a hypothetical redactor we can't even prove existed. I'm like, no, you can't prove any of that.
Nope.
It's chaotic methodology. It's like They Live, the movie, but instead of the main character wearing glasses to see who's an alien or not, you're looking at the text. You're saying, here's the real text of these magic glasses. It'll show you what's real and what was later interpolated BS. We don't have a magic wand that can tell us what was added later. We just can't determine that. I think redactional criticism is a disaster because most of it is hypothetical interpolation after the other,
right?
But can't be proven.
I'll tell you this. I like that he's the Bakken's very much focused on the Essenes. I think that a lot of people don't know much about them. And so that's probably why they're not taken as seriously or talked about as much, as a lot of people don't know as much as they should. Are you taking the Lord right now and eating him? Is that what you're doing, Neil? PETA.
This is not an ad right now. I promise. It's just damn good.
Gotta get you some. Did you already finish that one?
Well, the last thing I'll just say real fast is some argue that the Sadducees was the main Qumran sect. I think Lawrence Schiffman takes that position. And I've had him on before, but most scholars still go with the position that it was the Essenes or a group of Essenes who were the authors of the Qumran Dead Sea Scrolls.
Gotcha. Yeah.
That's it.
There is a debate on that. There is, but yeah, I know what you mean. Anon 666, thank you for that 666 super chat. Antiquity was long, likely a lot of confluence before standardization. Roman culture evolved between 1st and 3rd centuries Common Era, Syriac, Armenian, and Aksumite theologies, less Constantine-mediated interesting windows. I think all of them are interesting windows.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think I have much more to say about that.
Yeah, I think that's like
what this person's getting at is the farther away you get from the imperial Roman decrees, the more of a
standardization,
possibly authentic Christianity. That's not being influenced by Roman imperial decree.
So you mean going back, you get closer to something more authentic?
Yeah, the farther away from Constantinople you go, the more you get to Egypt and Arabia.
Gotcha.
The more you get to some sort of authentic Christianity, which by the time of the 7th century, when you get to Islam, you have to wonder: is Islam a remnant of the what's the name of the Eastern Christianity? What is it called again?
What we were talking about, Manichaeism?
No, the Eastern.
Are you talking about the Orthodox type of Eastern, like Syriac? Not Syriac.
My brain's not working right now. There's an Eastern type of Christianity that survives outside of the imperial Christianity,
right?
And people wonder if Islam is a remnant of that, meaning no images, going back to the basics of the Bible, don't make any graven images of God, that type of thing.
Right. It's more like a remnant of an earlier Jewish Christianity. And yes, I think that you will get.
Nestorian.
Yeah. They were against the idea of like God dying. There was these debates that were going on, like deicide and all that.
Yeah, stuff. God is too perfect to be able to have suffering.
Right.
And they adopt those ideas, and those aren't people laugh at that stuff.
That just
as like they go, that's just stupid. They just don't know what they're doing. But actually, if you really study this subject, you start to realize something was happening in that part of the world that was holding on to a very archaic, authentic version of Christianity, where Jesus is subordinate to the Father and isn't one with God. God is one by himself. That's a very early on idea of Christianity that you find with Ebionites, for example.
Right. That's the name I was trying to think of at the moment. Absolutely. That's why I enjoy having James Tabor. He's always insightful on these things. Again, GJW Pang again. The one I mean volunteers for the pagans as a rhetor. I suspect Paul, born in Tarsus, the origin point of Mithraism goes to Tyre as a Mithraic pater.
Mithraism was booming in Tarsus. Did you guys know that?
Yes.
Yeah.
It is very interesting that Paul is born there. And if you look at that region, the dominant religion in that area, Cilicium, Plutarch even mentions before, right around the same time as Paul, the Cilician pirates. Cilicia is where Tarsus is. He says the major religion in that region is Mithraism. So Paul literally tells us he's from a region where these pirates live who are Mithraists. So you could take that or leave it. You could say, oh, whatever. It's just a coincidence. He just lives in the same location as them. Fine. No problem with that. Or you can say this is strategically placed for Paul to be one of these Mithraic paters. And by the way, if you know your history, of antiquity, if you study it thoroughly, you know something. That the Mithraic paters often show up in other religions usurping their high priesthood. For example, the Eleusinian mysteries in the 4th century was usurped by a level 7 pater. There's a guy named Eunapius.
Broke up there for a second.
Yeah, I got muted. Yeah. There's a source from a guy named Eunapius, a fragment that survives to us, who says that the hierophant of the Eleusinian mysteries was usurped by a level 7 pater from the Mithraic mysteries. Basically, what he's saying is the entire religion of the Eleusinian mysteries was taken over by the Mithraic fathers, the priests of the Mithraic religion. So the Roman imperial cult took over this ancient priesthood that goes back to the Bronze Age. So then once you know that, once you realize that that's what's going on, you start to wonder, is that what's happening in Christianity as well? Now, it's a very speculative inquiry. It's very speculative. It's not based on anything you can prove, but it's based on things that actually did happen.
Yeah, interesting. I don't have much to add to that. Thank you. Next one is Farsight. Thank you so much, Farsight, for being here and giving us a super chat. If you all could pick one book from antiquity that you know existed, but that we don't have to bring back, which one would you choose? That we don't have. You're muted.
That's a good question.
Yeah, it is.
There's quite a few books that we lost.
I personally, just to throw one out there that came to mind, since reading Josephus. There was an alternative. There was an oh God, you fuck.
Porphyry.
All right.
Justice of Tiberius's history.
Yes, it's the other history. Yeah, but now you beat me, Porphyry. Yeah, no, hands down, bro. Porphyry. Sorry, you got me, Neil. How you gonna do that to me, bro? It's like you read my mind.
Porphyry wrote down what he thought was wrong with Christianity. We lost it. So who knows?
Yeah, I think Porphyry, but again, the other history would be very interesting to see because Josephus is competing with other historians. He is not the only guy on the block. We just don't have those histories anymore. Now, mind you, he wasn't obviously specialist specifically on the region. Like that wasn't his only exclusive region of writing the history of Judea, but Josephus was the chief historian.
Haggai Sardera would be good. We only have fragments of that text. He's the first person to write about Judaism. So we lost his entire work. We only have fragments of him. So to have his work would be amazing.
Yeah.
Well, Jonathan Adler points out that it was actually Hecataeus of Miletus that was attributed that thing about Moses, and scholars later just claimed it was Hecataeus of Abdera. So that's kind of it's kind of fuzzy there, as he points out. It's problematic. But yeah, I would love to see Justice of Tiberius' history if we ever got it. Photius of Constantinople, he's writing toward the end of the first millennium CE. He claims that Justice of Tiberius never mentioned Jesus. And I think that may have played a role in why Christian copyists didn't preserve it, because Josephus did mention Jesus. So that would give them an incentive to preserve it. That's a problem I have with the full interpolation theorist is if Christians were going around inserting whole passages ex nihilo about Jesus, why did they do that with Justice?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, that is a good question, Jacob. It really is. I think it is. And I wonder if the partial interpolators are right, what the hell was Jesus seen as in that text? You know what I mean? I got questions, bro. Sure. I got questions. So, Farsight, we love you and we thank you. As with everybody. Yeah, thank you. Bakken back, bro. I would so go on with you guys. I think this is the part where it's like the four-way, like having someone on there to chat, like a four-way stream. Bakken, let's talk about it, bro. Let's talk about it. You know what I'm saying? Thank you so much for the super duper. Really do appreciate it. And look, Bakken is always spitting some deep stuff, some stuff that's rabbit trails and stuff. And it has me thinking. Always the wheels churning. I hope it does for you as well. All right. A voice of American culture became a member of, I think, all three of our channels.
Really?
Awesome. I love you.
I double check because I saw him on there earlier, and then they popped on my side too, because it's popped up more than once. But I mean, look, we got this one, we got this one, so it might be one or two of us. I don't know if it's all three of us, but anyway, thank you.
Might be.
Doesn't matter as long as you join one of us. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. As long as it's me and me only, though. Steve, seriously.
By the way, stop. Pause.
Yeah.
We have 1,500 people watching right now. Thank you so much to all 1,500 of you that are watching the stream right now.
That's amazing.
Love you all.
Love you all, even if you hate my guts. Absolutely. Thank you. Steve, thank you for the super chat again. I love Gnostic Jesus. He comes down, looks around, decides we're too dumb to figure out how to be saved, and bounces, laughing at his host being killed.
I just want to say this super chat right here. If that's this is the perfect response to someone who's actually well read in the early Christian sources. Look, I didn't just put myself in full view for no reason. I don't just do that for nothing. When you read the sources of Christianity from the first to second mid 250 AD, you realize Jesus is a know-it-all. He is a all-perfect sort of divine daimonic being who thinks everyone's too dumb to figure himself out. And you just described perfectly exactly what Jesus is in early Christianity. Well said. Well said. thoughts, shout outs to you.
Absolutely. Steve, we love you. Freaking love you, dude. All right, we're going to the next one here. Who the hell's next? Here we go. Pat and the Hizzy. Holy guacamole, Constellation, Pegasus.
I know, right?
There will be legends with gospels written about him one day, and his name will never be uttered. It will only be a 4-letter acronym. You will have to call him by another name when we summon him. Anyway, thank you so much, Pat. We love you. Thank you.
My Eucharist.
Bakken again says, Derek, is Mark the secret Messiah? Jacob is Matthew, the critical scholar. Neil is Luke. Hold on. Let me reread this. Derek is Mark, the secret Messiah. Jacob is Matthew, the critical scholar. Neil is Luke, the tactical historian. Let me be your John, your Bacchae. LOL. Love it. Bakken. Hey, let's chat,
Awesome.
bro.
Hold on. Are you really down to come out here?
Yeah. Bakken. Oh, yeah.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. For sure. Bakken is, and by the way, Bakken, I know Bakken. They've come on the stream before. Absolutely cool. Totally chill. Always has some really interesting insights, and we can dig into some rabbit trails and all that fun stuff, by the way.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Love you, Bakken. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. Mr. Morpheus in the house. Really appreciate it. Please talk about Origin and the Hexapla. Listen, Neil, this is interesting. So I did a stream, right? And he was talking about, he super chatted this before, and I'm like, Origin, the Hexapla. Oh, that's cool, man. I didn't understand. So I get on the phone with Morpheus after, and he's like, no, bro, I spoke to Rabbi Tovia Singer about this. The Christian Origin and other Christian apologists were so up shit's creek without a paddle debating Jews on the scriptures that they had formulated a way using a hexapla in trying to compete against the rabbis in arguing against them. And Origin, go ahead, Jacob.
Well, Rabbi Tovia Singer argues, just so everybody understands his position, he is claiming that the Septuagint we have today is post-New Testament. That the original Septuagint is just the first 5 books of the Torah, the first 5 books of the Tanakh, which is the Torah.
Wow, so that's a big claim right there.
Yeah,
I know it is. Just to finish, what Rabbi Singer is claiming is that Origin.
Rabbi, if you're watching this, I'll fucking love you. You're my brother.
Oh yeah, I love
because
you.
if
great
we
guy.
met up in Israel. Listen, I don't agree with you on everything about your worldview, but we're good friends no matter what. We're brothers no matter what.
Absolutely.
You understand that, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I agree. So anyway, what he's claiming is that the hexapla is what became the full Septuagint. So the full Septuagint was created by Origin to harmonize the Old Testament with New Testament misquotations of the old one. So in other words, that stuff you see in, like for instance, in Isaiah about being born of a virgin instead of Betula being so Betula is a Hebrew for virgin, and then you have Alma, young woman. So Alma is what it actually says in Isaiah. So what if you believe Rabbi Singer is right, you would have to believe that Isaiah was changed in the 3rd century CE to try to make it look like that Matthew quoted Isaiah accurately instead of Matthew just using the Septuagint version.
If I may, because I feel like I need to read you guys something here in the vein of what you just said, Jacob, but to give people a better understanding of what the hexapla is going on. You know what I'm saying? What the hexapla is happening right now, okay? Origin lays this out explicitly in his commentary on Matthew 15:14 and in his letter to Africanus. He says that when he debates with Jews, he doesn't want to cite passages from the Septuagint that aren't in the Hebrew because the Jewish interlocutors will just dismiss them. He's been in situations where he quotes a proof text and the Jewish scholar across from him says, that's not in our text, and Origin has no comeback. He built the hexapla partly so Christians would know in advance where their Greek text differed from the Hebrew and could prepare accordingly. In the letter to Africanus, which is responding to Julius Africanus' challenge about the authenticity of Susanna, in addition to Daniel, found in the LXX, but not in the Hebrew, Origen defends using the LXX editions while also acknowledging the problem. He says something to the effect of, we shouldn't cut passages from our scriptures just because the Jews don't have them. But we also need to know where the differences are so we're not caught off guard in disputation, in debate. This tells you that by the early to mid-3rd century, Jewish-Christian textual debates was a regular occurrence, at least in Caesarea where Origen lived. He's not describing a one-off encounter. He's describing an ongoing problem that required a systematic solution. So the Hexapla became an apologetic Christian, like, text-proof kind of thing when you go up against the Jews and try to debate them in the scriptures. But your context is right. I have heard rabbis say he thinks that does he think that whole cloth invented it, or they tweak it? Because I thought that he said they edited it.
So he says the Nevi'im and Ketuvim, the prophets and writings translation was done. What we have was done by Origen in the 3rd century CE. So in other words, all the citations of the prophets in the New Testament was a deliberate, malicious alteration of what the Old Testament said, not because of several mistranslations or maybe a few of them are purposeful, but it was all purposeful. In that the Septuagint was expanded to harmonize with the Old Testament with the way the New Testament uses it.
Okay.
So yes, it's almost exactly as you said. Almost. Now, there's 2 reasons why I disagree with him. Okay, as interesting as his claim is, the 2 reasons I disagree with him is, one, Ben Sira knows about the fuller translation in the 2nd century BCE. So that tells you about the 2nd century BCE, the fuller expansion of the Septuagint was already completed. Irenaeus in the 2nd century CE complains. It says, hold on a minute. They took the word virgin out of Isaiah. That's what Irenaeus says. He claims that Jewish scribes removed the virgin from Isaiah. It's hilarious. To try to hide that the Old Testament predicted Jesus. That's what he says. And so I think he knew the Greek Isaiah that had the version of it that said Emmanuel was born of a virgin already in circulation. And that's why he made that claim. The Hebrew copy doesn't have it like the Isaiah scroll, because regardless if he's referring to the Isaiah scroll itself or not. Right. But he's just saying, you see, in this copy over here, it says it. But in the Hebrew copy, it doesn't. They just swapped it out. It must have said Betula in Hebrew. It must have. It couldn't have said Alma.
Yep. It's a problem because even if you don't take Rabbi's view, you still have a problem with one authoritative text and another authoritative text contradict each other. The translators, it's crazy. Thank you, Morpheus. We love you. Thank you. We got to talk more about this. William Arons, thank you for the super chat. Replying to Gnostic, Napoleon was not seen as a precursor to the liberal order, rather as a toxic mix of revolutionary excess and imperial usurpation, reversed by the reactionary Congress of Vienna.
Look, I understand the nuance here. And I want to say Napoleon's liberalism is not the same liberalism as we see today. It's not the same left-wing liberalism we see today. People say liberal today, they think of a left-wing, think of like, what's his name? Stephen Crowder, or no, not Stephen Crowder, Stephen Colbert. And I think of liberalism as that. That's not liberalism. Liberalism, as in Napoleon, is actually more on the right. It's actually more nationalist. Napoleon was a nationalist. He's a French nationalist. He was hardcore France first, like America first. But he was France first. He was, in that sense, very right-wing. However, underneath that right-wing France first was freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of expression, liberal leftism that you find today.
That's what you meant. That's what you meant. William, thank you so much for the super duper. You're super duper. Next super chat. Pat in the house. Myth Vision, you deserve the love tonight. You guys kill it. Thank you. I think that's what you meant to say. Thank you so much for the super chat. Appreciate the love.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
By the way, I was going to say we're going to let some people call in tonight. Dude, and we haven't even got to that point yet because we have so many super chats.
I won't have time, by the way.
Yeah. If you guys can keep dropping super chats, there's going to be no call-ins. Keep dropping them.
Yeah. Seth, thank you so much, Seth. Hi, fellas. Hi, Seth here. Have not been live with you guys in a while, just showing some love. We love it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Farsight from Kaganator. What is the linguistic dating of the Aramaic portions of Daniel as it appears in the Dead Sea Scrolls? What predictions are in it? I was looking this up, just trying to get the fills. I know John Collins and and it's not even just, Aramaic sections must date to this. There seems to be a various traditions being grabbed by this author we call Daniel, like it's a rolling text. And some of them say it might go back to Persian or early Hellenistic. That seems to be where the scholarly arguments are between the traditions we find in the Aramaic portions. But even in those Aramaic portions, not all of them date at the same time. So it's pretty messy to see how this Daniel's compiled. And then what's in it? Well, I had to look that up just to make sure I knew. You've got, sorry, let me pull up the exact what's in it. You get the sections. Chapter 2. Oh, you got your dog.
That's funny, right? That's funny.
Yes. Nebuchadnezzar's dream of the giant statue is in it. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego is in it. Nebuchadnezzar's dream of the great tree is in it, chopped down. Belshazzar's feast is there. The writing on the wall scene is in it. And this is the Aramaic. Daniel and the lion's den is in the Aramaic. And then supposedly Daniel's vision of four beasts rising from the seas in Aramaic as well. So, interesting that's in it. So I don't know what we would say the predictions are that are in it, apart from there is this idea of eventually this God is going to cover the earth, which seems to fit some of the prophetic tropes we find in other prophets as well. And Daniel seems to be echoing that. So maybe this author's using earlier tradition. Maybe simultaneous
that's Derek confirmed right there.
What?
That whatever your prophecies are confirmed.
Oh, absolutely. That's what Daniel's all about. It's really about me, ladies and gentlemen. No, Farsight, I hope that answered some of the questions, but of course, there's a lot more. I would recommend John Collins on that, the Hermeneutic commentary. He gets in the weeds, literally very, very deep. I really appreciate you. Johansson. Thank you. With the 666. No question. Just sending love for the hell of it.
Nice. Dropping $6.66.
Glad to see the three of you collabing.
Leaving a message on us right now.
Absolutely. Yep. Listen to Nil's voice change now.
Johannan, you just discovered the secrets of all.
Isn't it funny how much is like strangely people today will like, no, add a cent. Don't give me that receipt. It's like $6.66. Like they freak out. It's insane.
That's hilarious.
Right? No, thanks, Johannan.
Yeah, thank you.
Kylie in the house. Thank you, Kylie Horson. Hi, guys. I'm a former Christian, no longer believe, but the one thing that stumps me is I can still speak in tongues. Any ideas? I have one. Let me answer with this. I just spoke in tongues too. Did you feel that? No, but I can speak in tongues. And Christianity.
Hold on. I'm taking over right now.
Do you need me to speak more tongues?
I'm taking over.
Go ahead.
You, Kylie, you had the most beautiful name I've ever heard. Kylie, I love the name. You are a Maenad. That's the answer. You're trying to figure out, why am I speaking in tongues? You are a Maenad. Dionysus has chosen you to speak tongues to the world.
That's it.
And you are a Maenad. That's the answer. Beautiful name. Kylie.
Look, I always speak in tongues for fun, Kylie. I think anyone who does a little practice can find a way to speak in tongues. But yeah, I think it's funny because it's something that Christianity taught us. You know what I mean? Thank you so much for the super chat. Really appreciate that. Getting me to speak in tongues. Steve's back. Thank you, Steve. I used to be Catholic and practiced cannibalism every Sunday in Mass. Man, religion is so weird when you look at it from the outside.
So true. It is a weird thing, isn't
it? Dude, when you think about it, and they're trying to tell you it's him. It's like really him. You have to eat and drink his blood and eat his flesh. Dude,
how is that not cannibalism? How is it not cannibalism? First of all, right, before we even get into any debates, how is it not cannibalism? That's what I want to know.
The only argument I can say is this, because it's not really him. You know what I'm saying? That's the only thing. But they believe it's really him. That's why it's
still ritualistic cannibalism. It's still pretending to do it.
Exactly, Jacob. Fucking say that again.
Say it again. Full screen.
It's ritualistic cannibalism. So they are pretending to eat him. They're pretending to do it.
Fucking Jacob's the fucking man, bro.
Oh my gosh.
Exactly. It's there's nothing you can say to convince me that Christianity is not ritualistic, cannibalistic theology. Period.
Facts.
I love how they always try to deflect and say Satanism this, Satan that. The entire Bible, cover to cover, never attributes human sacrifice to Satan anywhere. It just doesn't. Nor child sacrifice. But child sacrifice is totally cool with God. And in Ezekiel, he regrets doing it and says, "Oh, I shouldn't have asked for your firstborns. That was terrible." Gee, you think?
Nuclear bombs.
And Jesus is the firstborn of all creation, by the way, while we're on that subject.
Yeah, I mean that's the other thing. They'll go, well, some of them aren't a child, and it's like, well, let me ask you this. I heard this apologetic all the time. Oh, it'd be wrong to sacrifice a child. Well, he wasn't a child. It was 25 or 33 or something. It's like, oh, that's interesting that you would say that. What are you doing, Nil? What are you doing?
I don't know what's going on.
I think he's hitting buttons. Okay, I think he's okay. Let's go with you and me for a second. There we go. Okay. So I thought about it in the reverse, bro, and I was like, okay, people want to say Isaac was a grown man. Would this change your perspective if he wasn't 12? And I'm like, you know what? That's interesting. It's a good way to think about it. Let's take a grandma or a grandpa and say, hey, you're going to sacrifice a grandpa. Would that be okay? No, any human being sacrificed is not okay. What the hell's going on here?
Exactly.
It doesn't make any sense. They're trying to make up ways to make it make sense. Dave RC, somebody's member, so they have some wings on their back, and they super chatted. Christianity equals Jewish in theology, Roman in policy. What do you think?
That's kind of interesting. That's an interesting way of thinking about it. I think there's kind of some truth to that.
Yeah.
Especially when you look at Romans 13 about all governments should it says you should obey all governments in the world because all governments are appointed by God.
Yeah.
And in the idea of going against circumcision, because that's not really something you should be doing anymore, according to Galatians. That fits that situation. And you see that develop later in Hadrian's reign.
Hold on.
When
there you go.
Hadrian outlaws circumcision.
So real quick, just to say, if you want to know more about this, I think they're on the right money. Jews and their Roman rivals, pagan Rome's challenge to Israel. Jews obviously were competing with the laws of Rome. And in this, she quotes a Greek author in the Roman era that said that Rome would be the greatest nation in the world. Why? Because of their laws. Their laws, it had inclusion and so many things that the Greeks didn't have for their city-states. And so Christianity models much of the language and, of course, like they say, the policy that we find in Rome. That I agree with totally, as well as the Jewish theology. It's Hellenistic. It's clear. Thank you so much, Dan. We love you. Next super chat. Real Daniel Khan, thank you so much for the super chat. Neil makes a good point that Islam is a remnant of the Ebionites. They were found in places like Petra. There is strong evidence that Petra is Mecca, and Neil's not the only one. I think James Tabor suspects this very same thing that Neil was mentioning too. Just to give you a PhD as well that agrees. Anyway, letting Neil catch up on his Jesus cookies and getting that cannibalism on. Nicole, thank you so much again. Good to see you. Question: are there any statistics on how many prophecies in the Old Testament actually came true?
I mean, I think the issue there is that all of those prophecies are written after the fact.
Vaticanium ex eventu. Look at Neil. Hold on, he's waving for dear life. Look at him. No, I think you're right. Vaticanium ex eventu. Or listen. A broken clock is right twice a day. Okay, so there's things in the culture you could look around and kind of go, I think that this is going to head that way. I'm going to guess it's going to head that way. God told me it's going to head that way. And next thing what happens?
Not only that, you have things happening hundreds of years earlier than they're written.
Yeah.
So people are writing stuff down that already happened hundreds of years earlier, and they're pretending that they're writing it down when it happened. Daniel is a perfect prime example.
Yeah. Daniel and Isaiah, Trito Isaiah, he name drops Cyrus hundreds of years before the dude even existed.
There you go. Prime example. They just they're writing this up after.
Yeah.
And then pretending that it's written 200 years before.
And again,
that's prophecy for you.
And again, if anything did get predicted, it's what average people would obviously. I can make predictions right now, and if they happen, because I'm looking at the writing on the wall, so to speak, and they happen in 10 years, 5 years, whatever, it's because I'm looking around and I'm seeing and I'm filling the air. But you see so much failed prophecy too, or Vaticanium ex eventu. It's like, yeah. So I don't know if there is the statistics on that, but I would imagine scholars would say if it looks so obviously clear as a fulfilled prophecy and like a very, very great detail, it's Vaticanium ex eventu. It's written after the fact, pretending to be written before. Thank you so much, Nicole. Gaddis, thank you again. Jesus and Satan is one entity under spiritual polarization, excess evil. It's popularized metaphysics by the masses and subverted by the elite.
Well, my problem with this is it's trying to reconcile Jesus and government, what you see with Pauline theology, like in Romans 13 elsewhere, and with Satan, because Satan isn't identified as that. Now, some will try to say, let's go to, I think it's in 2 Corinthians where it is stated that the God of this world, it doesn't actually, Paula Frederickson will point out, it doesn't actually state it's Satan. Who is the God of this world? The canonical Pauline letters don't actually say who it is. So it's just an assumption that that's Satan. We don't actually know that that's Satan. That's an interesting point on her part.
Especially with the Gnostic stuff, right? Like, because it could be Yahweh.
That's like, the implication. So that's my point. So the thing is, like, let's make Satan and Jesus the same entity. I never bought that. I mean, I know some people are trying to make that work. It just doesn't make any sense to me. But that's me.
Yeah, I'm with you. I feel you. Gaddis, no, thank you so much. Appreciate that. It's dualistic, though. It is dualism all day. And we still have it. We still have it now. Now you go back to the Hebrew Bible, Isaiah, I create light, I create darkness, I create good, I create evil. I, the Lord, do all those. That's not dualistic. So you have different theology.
That just makes God evil. Well, there's no need to identify God or Jesus with Satan to recognize that. I don't know why people do that.
Exactly. Seth, thank you for the super chat. Nil, please elaborate. What happened to the psychedelic parts of the Eleusinian mysteries? You said that there were religion was observed by level 7 materialism.
So to answer this question, there wasn't a psychedelic aspect of the Eleusinian mysteries.
There was a psychedelic aspect. You said,
and that was the Kaikion. Now, when the psychedelic, or should I say, when the mysteries were taken over by the level 7 pater, who was a Mithraic pater, who was a priest of the Roman religion of Mithraism and Solar Invictus, the solar religion. He took his own theological inquiries and applied them to the Eleusinian mysteries. Mm. So what happened was, we don't know exactly what his transformations or his changes were, but we know that at some point the Eleusinian mysteries goes from being an ancient hereditary Eumolpid, Eumlipd, it's the name of the clan, like Levites, for example. Think of the Levites. They run the mysteries of the Jews. They are the priesthood of the Jews. The Eumolpids are the same thing for the Eleusinian mysteries. But they are usurped by these paters of the Mithraic mysteries. So we don't know exactly what happens after that, if they take away the Kukion mysteries, or if they let them continue. The point is, what the super chatter is concerned with is the Kaikion mysteries continuing past the extirpation of the Roman Mithraic mystery. That I can't say, but you're right. You're right to point out that this was a psychedelic mystery that ends up becoming part of the Roman Imperial cult. So, good super chat. That's all I got to say.
Thank you, Seth. Thank you for that answer, Neil. Bakken in the house again. Become a member. Everybody watching, become a member. Support our community in pursuit of truth and wisdom. Approximately $5 isn't much, and it all adds up. Be blessed, my friends. Seriously, though, appreciate that. I really, really do, Bakken, because
thank you very much.
If it weren't for the people who do support what we do, we don't live off government assistance. I can promise you that. So, it is all up to you.
Yeah, we're not like Abin Hillman living off of fucking government assistance and then talking shit about everyone who needs to make money. We're in the rat race. We have to make our rent paid.
Have to. Yeah, have to. And so if you like you like these things, you like our educational content, enjoy this stuff, get in on it. You know what I mean? We try to find ways to make it where there's a reciprocation, you get something out of it. We try our best to do what we can. And this was all ground up. Each of us individually did our own thing to build this. And so, I wish we had churches funding us, I wish we had the money that comes from the system of all of these large institutions, but we don't. And it really is crowdfunded. So we really appreciate that, Bakken, for recognizing and being there to support what we do. And we're going to keep trying to bring it. Linda, thank you. Linda, thank you so much for the super chat. You. Yeah, and to being a member. She's someone's immortality right now, for sure. Then we got sit or nine. I'm not sure what that means, but thank you for the super chat. If Christianity were true, what evidence would you expect, Derek? Love you guys. Personally, if I'm going to keep it real with you. So divine hiddenness comes into this a little. It would just be a universal thing. It wouldn't be questioned. I don't think he played hide and go seek. I think if it was true, this would be established. We wouldn't all be wondering if it's true. It would be true. And we wouldn't be having, car salesmen perform apologetic tricks that we catch them in lies on, trying to sell you it. No, it'd be apparent to everyone. It would be so obvious that it was the one and the true one. So to me, what would make it true, what evidence would I expect? That it would be global and obvious. This wouldn't be a question. I wouldn't look at all these other mystery religions around it and go, that walks and talks and acts similar to that. I wouldn't watch the humans destroy and cannibalize their own systems, the various denominations and all the things that come within Christianity that they can't even agree on. I don't think that would be there. If it was true and the God of it was perfect, and it wanted everyone to be saved, as they claim, my opinion, if God wants something and he's perfect, he gets it. Everyone would be saved. Everyone would come to the knowledge of that truth. You wouldn't have people running around thinking it wasn't true. So that's enough evidence for me to be convinced that that would be the case. Instead, we're playing hide and go seek. That's my answer. So, and then guess what? I'm not saying that there isn't something out there. Look, I literally go to sleep some nights. Some nights I'm like, all right, I don't think there's a God, right? Some nights I go to bed and I go, I wonder if there's something else. I don't know. I am agnostic in many, many ways. I don't know. Sometimes I feel wonder and awe, right? And I'm just keeping it real with you. But Christianity makes some tall claims, and I think those claims can be tested. And I think we should be more honest with it. That's all I'm saying.
And some apologists are so desperate they'll say that God and or Satan planted dinosaur bones to test our faith, which is just pathetic.
Yeah. Look at Jacob's face over there, like. Thank you so much. Aggro Mage with the 20 bomb. Greetings, all. Who do you think are the best Roman Hellenic historians in regards to happenings around the Mediterranean Sea during the transition from the paternal institutions of heathenism to the entrenched Christian institutions? Interesting.
Go ahead.
Roman Hellenistic historians in regards to happenings around the Mediterranean Sea during the transition from paternal institutions of heathenism, I would imagine it would be the turn of the century. I mean, that's
Nope.
No. Okay, help me out.
I'll fight you right now for that.
Then tell me.
It is exactly Caracalla.
When is this? You pulling it up?
Caracalla in the early 3rd century.
Oh wait, hold on. How do I make this up bigger?
Huh?
How can I make this up bigger?
What do you mean?
Maximize. There we go.
There you go. There you go. Yeah.
When Caracalla was emperor in 212 CE, he implemented a law called the Antoninus Constitution, I think he called it, but it's known as the Caracalla Edict.
Are you talking about the claim that everybody's now citizen, blanket citizenship?
Everyone is now a citizen. If it wasn't for that edict in 212, there would be no Christian takeover. The Christians needed.
I agree.
The Christians absolutely needed every single person in the Roman Empire to be a citizen in order for their religion to even have a chance. That's my answer to this question.
That's an interesting way of looking at it. That's an interesting way. That opened the door.
Third century.
Yeah, because imagine if they weren't all citizens and the laws didn't necessarily apply. Once you universalize Christianity, everyone under that umbrella must be legally forced to go. Yeah, so that's an interesting. I never thought of it that way.
Yep,
that's interesting. Good answer.
Without Caracalla, Christianity never rises.
It's also the reason, according to one of our favorite Roman classicist scholars. What is her name again?
Mary Beard.
Mary Beard. She thinks that led to the destruction of that. That's a whole nother. Absolutely.
I agree with her 100%.
Yeah,
she understands how big of a deal that edict was for changing the entire landscape of the entire Roman Empire. But before the Caracalla Edict, you had a clear aristocracy, you had a clear elitism, you had a clear patrician class that led to what was known as the military class, and then below that was the plebeian class. You had a divine hierarchy of layers, but after Caracalla, they're all equal. After the 3rd century, there is no patrician or plebeian or what do you call it? The military class. They're all equal. They're all Roman citizens. So what that does, it sets up the perfect soil or atmosphere for something like Christianity to even be possible.
Thank you, Neil. Thank you, Agro. Thank you, Jacob. Gnosis 83. I like this question. Why do so many movies have Gnostic influence? Dark City, Matrix, Truman Show, Severance, Westworld, ancient esoteric knowledge, or poison for the mind? Neil, didn't you and I interview the Freemason guy who did he specialized on the esoterics in movies of modern period?
Yes. And then what I'll say to this question is, this is one of the most ubiquitous questions of art, is this question of what are we in and who is in charge of our reality? Because of the problem of evil, because of the reality that we find ourselves in, it leads to a sort of Gnostic worldview if you continue to keep thinking about these things in depth. So what happens is a lot of artists end up in the mindset of this world where there's some sort of fabric of reality that is actually a illusion, and that beyond this illusion there's these archons or leaders of the world that are out to get us, out to keep us down. But beyond that realm, there's a truer realm. And that's kind of the answer to this question. If that makes sense.
Yeah. I think you're right. And I think there's going to be overlap, not just with the tradition of Gnosticism we have when we think of Christianity, but even Eastern philosophies. There's a lot more philosophical thought than just this bracket we call Gnosticism. It encompasses a broader philosophy that's worldwide that a lot of people have recognized and thought about.
So who's this Freemason that you're both referring to?
Yeah, let me look his name up. I don't know if I think I did put Freemason on the title. Yeah. His name is Robert Sullivan IV.
I thought it was Manly Ho.
That sounds familiar.
Yep. 7 years ago, I interviewed him.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I'll try to.
The Mandeans just don't get enough attention. Let me tell you what I like about Mandean theology, because Gnosticism kind of feels kind of half-assed to me in a way, because it's like when you reject the Jewish God, but you keep Jesus, it's like throwing away the salad but keeping the dressing. But with you know what the Mandeans do?
The roots of it all.
They throw Jesus and God and the Old Testament prophets out of there.
The Mandeans say that John the Baptist is the Messiah.
Yeah,
Jesus was an imposter.
Yes,
that's pretty extreme.
Look, Yellow Walker did bring up Plato's Cave, and now this is absolutely significant. It's pre any of the Judeo-Christian stuff that we've had to encounter, and I think that Plato's Cave has your brain just spin into thinking about this idea of, even when I leave the cave, I'm still in a cave. I think it's the ultimate reality, but it's not. That's fascinating to me.
I think a future topic.
Same with Tiger Shark. Existence is the Matrix before the Matrix. Exactly what he's saying there.
I just want to say with one last thing before we continue. I think an interesting topic we could talk about later is Mandean parallels to the pseudo-Clementine recognitions of Simon Magus. There's a lot there. That's a long story, but let's keep going.
Okay. Chris Bauer, thank you so much for the super chat. Do you guys think that the Shepherd of Hermes could have been pre-Jesus Christian text from a movement originally started by John the Baptist?
I don't think so.
I have no idea, Chris. I have no idea of knowing. I don't know. I'll be honest.
Because the author is supposed to be Hermas, and he's the brother of Bishop Pius I, so that would put this text no earlier than like the 140s.
Okay.
So basically around the mid-2nd century CE. It's not going to be earlier than that because of that authorial attribution.
Gotcha. Chris, makes me want to look into it though, but I don't have an answer personally on that one. Timicus, sorry if I butcher your name, Timicus Tongue. What are your opinions of the philosophical inspirations of Pseudo-Dionysius? What prevented his concepts from catching on? Hold up. Pseudo-Dionysius. This is in the Common Era, I believe, right? Let me make sure. Pseudo-Dionysus.
I don't got a lot to say on this right now, so I'll just let you respond.
Let me just look this up real quick. Philosophical, because I don't want to. I don't know for sure off the top of my head. Let me just do that. Pseudo-Dionysus, because it said, "What are your opinions on the philosophical inspirations of Pseudo-Dionysus? What prevented his concepts from catching on?" I just put philosophical. Great pool. Let's see. Pseudo-Dionysus, the Areopagite, is one of the most important figures for the Jewish or Roman question, precisely because he represented the movement when Christianity fully metabolizes Greek philosophy and makes it structurally inseparable from Christian theology. Here's the full picture. Who he was and wasn't. The author wrote under the name Dionysus, the Areopagite. The Athenian convert Paul supposedly made in Acts 17:34 on the Areopagus. The fiction was that these were writings from a direct disciple of Paul, giving them apostolic era authority. This worked for roughly 1,000 years. The texts were cited as authoritative by the 6th century onward, and throughout the medieval period, they carried near apostolic weight. The pseudonymous authorship was first seriously challenged by Lorenzo Valla in the 15th century and definitely demonstrated in the 19th century. The key evidence, the text depend heavily on Neoplatonist philosopher Proclus in 412 to 485 CE, borrowing specific terminology, argument of structures, and even some passages almost verbatim. Since Proclus died in 485, the text have to be later than that. So these are way late in the game.
6th century text. This is a fake, forged document by the Christian church. Somebody well-educated had to have known of Proclus's Neoplatonism regarding triads and all sorts of stuff in Proclus's works, but is applying this stuff to a character mentioned in Paul's epistles named Dionysius, and also in the book of Acts. So it's a fake character mentioned in the book of Acts, mentioned in Paul's epistles, named Dionysius from Athens, the Areopagite, who's, the Areopagite is where, that's where people get tried, right? Well, anyways, Paul supposedly hung out with this guy. We have no sources from this character, and then all of a sudden, the 6th century pops up, boom, a bunch of sources from this character's mouth. And scholars have pointed out, no, this is not legitimate. This is a pseudo-text. This is Pseudo-Dionysius. This is a 6th century source from a guy who obviously knows Proclus and Plotinus and Porphyry and the Platonist writers, these pagans who are into this whole triad stuff. But this guy is obviously taking this philosophy and applying it to Christian theology. And that this is not just some random Christian theologian. This becomes central to Greek Orthodox Christianity. Just so you know.
Okay. Next super duper. By the way, guys, I could smell the food. If you don't mind, let's try to get through these super dupers. I need to get some dinner.
Wait, real quick. He asked, what prevented his concepts from catching on?
Yeah.
His concept caught on. His concepts became Orthodox Christianity, as we know today.
That's why when I was reading what I was reading, they said it was authoritative.
Yeah.
They were.
So I don't know what you meant by that, but he became the Orthodox Christian.
Interesting.
So, anyway.
Yeah. Thank you so much. William Ahrens. In the 1820s and 30s, the movement that was the origin of certain apostolic churches was also a reaction to a Napoleonic era, which included aspects of Pentecostal fervor and apostolic leadership. That's an interesting thing to study, is to see what kind of, with the burned over district in New York, there was a huge fervor of new cults developing, and what was the surge, and how is that related to the Napoleonic era? You know what I mean? What is that? I don't know, but it'd be interesting to see, because Napoleon syndrome, this ego that is big, a lot of the cult leaders had that. So I do wonder if they're looking up to him going, dude, this guy is larger than life. And guess what? If I can do that, people will follow me. I don't know. It's an interesting question, William. Thank you for the super chat, my friend. Good to see you here.
Thank you.
Stefan Bayer says Petra is Amalek in Josephus. I've never heard of that. Have you heard of that? I haven't heard of that. Petra is Amalek. I see Medea though. I know what Medea looks like. I don't know about Amalek, but I know about Medea right there. That's Medea. She has no clue. She has no.
She's like, what's going on right now?
She's in Plato's cave with you right now. It's kind of dark. Yeah. She sees the shadows on the wall, though. You know what I mean? Thank you so much, Stefan. Caleb Dominic Peterson, thanks for the super chat. Feels like Christianity comes from Elagabalus.
All right. Well, let me say this. It is true that one of the first Roman sources from the Roman, it's called the Historia Augusta, mentions that Elagabalus was the first Roman emperor to allow the Christian and Jewish rites to be included within the Roman imperial cult. So some scholars think that this is just nonsense. Some scholars think that this is the first time Romans took their religion seriously, or you may fall in between somewhere in there. The point is, there is a source that does mention this. It's just hard to understand what they mean by this.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Caleb. Somebody joined and became a member. Hallelujah.
On my channel. Thank you, Dsonics. Appreciate it.
Seriously, thank you. We really appreciate that. Gaddis, again in the house, all religions and myths are entity politics asserting as above, as below, so above idea. Metaphysical, divine gets converted to a way of socializing via entities. Interesting. I think there is obviously going to be some relationship, because I don't think that division, we try to set laws that do divide these things, but I think they are connected in some way. Great super chat, Gaddis. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
The Sonics in the house, and they're a member. We know whose salvation they wear, what armor of God they wear on their chest from History Valley. I would love to read any book article written by any of you. What would your first books be about, Neil? Where can I read your articles, publications?
Oh my God. I'm actually writing a book right now. Should I dare to show my first chapter?
If you want.
Should I dare to show my first chapter of my first book?
I mean,
all right, listen, I will do it.
I think you should.
Okay. Here's what I'll do. I will share my first chapter of my first book. I'm not joking. This book is so far about 100,000 words. I've been working on this book for months now. I'm not kidding. Months. Maybe even over a year now. And I've been slowly chipping away at it, and I have about 90,000 words. So what I'll do is I will show the first chapter of this book. Share my screen. Let me see if I can get to it. Wait, is it over here?
While you get to it, I'll just say real quick. I do have I'm finishing up a paper on the formation of Paul's letters, and it'll be coming out in the Journal of Higher Criticism.
Yeah. So this is my first book, guys. Yeah, this is my first book, guys. No joke. Golden Bough 2. I might change the name, but this is the first thing. It's literally, I'm not joking. This is so perfect for a name, because what I'm doing is I'm reviving James Frazier. I am reviving the fucking life of James Frazier. And let me tell you what I mean by that. So here's table of contents.
It's hard to see it all, but
should I zoom in a little bit?
You don't want to give away all your thunder, but you know what I'm saying.
Okay. So I have Resurrecting the Golden Bough, which I'm about to show you right now. Then I have the introduction, the world that made the word, the problem of origins, the Platonic Bible, dying and rising world. You guys can pause and check this all out for yourselves. That's topics of this book.
Hey, I'm proud of you, Neil, for doing this. We've been talking about it for a while, bro, and it's time. It's time. You got to get a book out. Neil, Jacob's going to have to get a book out. I've got books. We all have books, and this is yours right now.
Yep. I talk about these gods, Dusaris, Ion, Sol Invictus, Chaldean oracles. I get into Esther, Ishtar, Oriental Rome, talk about all this right here. All that's in my book. I'm not kidding. There's 90,000 words in this book. So
you're not even done.
I'm just gonna present you the first chapter. Is that okay?
Yeah.
The scholarly rejection of James George Frazer, dying and rising God archetype, led most famously by Jonathan C. Smith in his influential 1987 essay, In Resurrection, was largely premised on a demand for a literalist precision that the category was never meant to sustain. Smith and his contemporaries, and even today, argued that figures like Tammuz and Osiris and Attis didn't fit the definition of a resurrection because their returns were often incomplete, seasonal, or merely transformations into a different state of being, such as becoming king of the dead, as if the gospel authors couldn't possibly draw inspiration from such diversity of these returns, and that they could only draw specific bodily resurrections accompanied with specific circumstances. Mm-hmm. However, this critique often risks missing the forest for the trees by deconstructing the category until it ceases to exist. Critics have inadvertently blinded themselves to cross-cultural recurring motif of a deity whose temporary cessation of being, descent, or death is the ontological pivot upon which the fertility or order of the cosmos turns. These myths about katabasis, descent, and anabasis, ascent, were central themes to the rituals and culture of antiquity. Frazer himself accepted that his theories were speculative, and the associations he made were circumstantial and usually based only on resemblance. He wrote, "Books like mine, merely speculation, will be superseded sooner or later, the sooner the better, for the sake of truth, by a better induction based on fuller knowledge." I have a similar approach to my own work here in the spirit of Frazer, although I do have receipts, primary sources, and secondary scholarly material to support my work. Despite Frazer's speculative methodology, he was right, and I plan to show why. To discard the category of dying God entirely because Frazer's Victorian-era evidence was a messy, classic case of throwing out the baby with the bathwater. Most biblical scholars are taught that James Frazer's work is completely fringe and outdated and won't even bother to read his work. So many of his modern critics couldn't even tell you what Hilaria or Adonia even is. And I'll stand by that. Pull up anybody. Pull up James Frazer. Pull up Kip Davis. Pull up Bart Ehrman. Pull up what's his name? Danny. What the fuck's his name again?
Are you talking about Dan McClellan?
Dan McClellan, thank you. Pull up any of those three guys. Ask them, hey, Danny McClellan. Hey, Bart Ehrman. Hey, Kip Davis. Do you even know what Hilaria is? Tell me what Hilaria even is. They have no fucking clue. They don't fucking know what it is. Or Adonia. Or what Frazer even wrote about. I'm sorry. I'm just being real right now. Those three people have no fucking clue what those two things are. So okay, they don't know what Frazer wrote about. They just know he's wrong.
Don't give your whole chapter now. Don't be giving a whole.
Let me finish. Let me finish my thought.
Okay.
They just know from their professors at their divinity master schools that Frazer is wrong and outdated. Frazer demonstrated that not only do gods die and return, But these resurrections were central to the festivals and rituals of local cults around the world. And the cultures that believed in these resurrections also believed that they could take part in them through sympathetic or homeopathic magic. Fraser points out that these vegetation gods, Adonis, Attis, death memorials had ritual mourning by communities, followed by joyous celebration, and in some cases, ritual consumption of a sacred food and beverage that symbolized the communion with the gods. These were ritual acts of magic that directly influenced Christian rituals like the Eucharist.
Yep.
Critics of Fraser often tend to focus on the surviving myths in literature, despite knowing we have lost over 98% of texts from antiquity. Oh shit, what just happened to you? That was weird.
I think the gods are trying to tell you.
I think the gods are trying to tell me that's enough for now.
That's enough for now, Neil. I got to get some food in me soon, bro. Look, stay tuned. Neil's got a book coming out.
Yeah, no, seriously though. That was I didn't press. I don't know what just happened.
That literally was telling you. That's it.
That was weird. I didn't press anything. Derek tried to press that button right there.
No, how can I control what's on your computer?
The point is this. From what you just heard, I'm setting the tone. I am being very what's the word? Antagonistic towards some of the culture, some of the norms in scholarship today. So, it's just not just the shit on Kip Davis or Dan or Bart. They're all these are smart people. But I'm telling you that they're wrong. For multiple reasons. My book is how many words is it? It's about 100,000 words describing why they're wrong. Okay.
Stay tuned. He's gonna have his book and everybody's gonna hear about it when it does come out. Me and Jacob have both written articles. I'm sure, Jacob, you have plenty of articles that you've probably told about your audience, and I've done a few too. A few with Bob Price, and I did one I wrote that's on academia.edu called The Minimal Doubts Argument. But what do you want to mention yours before we get to these last few supers?
No, I don't really have anything more to say right now.
Okay. Desonics, thank you so much. Naughty Heathen, thank you for being here, being someone's member, and super chatting that 20 bomb. As heathens today, if we are going to know the reality of the Odin as Sigfather, then we need to understand how the Christian victory was ordained. The same principle applies to any other pagan practice today. Thank you. Really appreciate that. Yeah. It's as heathens today, if we're going to know the reality of Odin as Sigfather, then we need to understand how the Christian victory was ordained.
Yeah. Through fuckery, obviously.
Yeah. There's a lot
through social pressure.
Yeah.
Through social
pressure, through the sword.
Because the Odinists did not just give up their tradition. Like Naughty Heathen, I know who you are, Naughty Heathen. I've seen you around. Do you actually think that the Odinists were sitting around in Germany and in Norway and Scandinavia, and they just said, in Denmark, and they just said one day, you know what? We're a bunch of idiots. The Christians are right. Let's give up our whole entire culture to the Christians. No, they fought against the Christians. And they lost because of social pressure. That's what happened.
And war and all that. Yeah. Thank you so much. William Ahrens in the house. Thank you again, William. Today in his sermon, Chief Apostle Schneider of the New Apostolic Church said, Jesus will only return if believers call on him to do so. And wars of today will only end when God intervenes. Well, that's terrible. I think that's handicapping people from taking it upon themselves to stop these things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's terrible. Like expecting.
Yes, William.
War will always continue until.
Shout out to William.
Cut this out. Yeah, William. You know what I mean?
Shout out to William. Hold on.
Full screen. Here you go. Oh, sorry. There you go.
Shout out to William.
Shout out to William. Neil's got the Bacchus going on, the Bacchus spirit right now. He's a satyr enjoying Dionysus. William Ahrens, again, I realized those points of the sermon that to be at peace with what is preached in my church meant I have to accept the concepts of a God who appears only when asked and humans powerless to stop wars. So, okay.
You figured it out. He figured it out.
Yeah. This is another way of looking.
You figured it out.
Yeah,
William, you have just figured out the soul.
There you figured it out. William. Thank you, William. All right. Look, I need to get some food in me. Any final statement? I'm ready to wrap things up.
I have nothing more to add.
Neil, you good? You have just that's it. That's it.
My chat went down to 187, so I think they're all checked out too. So,
bro, it's all good. Look, everybody, what's your slogan, Jacob? We have ours. What's yours?
I don't think I have.
You are about to attain
true gnosis.
True gnosis.
Yep.
And we are Myth Vision. We got to make you one, Jacob. You're next.
Yeah,
we're gonna make one, bro.
Thank
you, everybody who's shown love, comments, likes.
I love you all.
Super chats. We love you. Until
especially Bakken Pan, my man.
Yes,
absolutely. Have a good night.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Son, do you want to know what the truth is? After this, there's no turning back. You take the blue pill and you wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to. You take the red pill and you stay in Wonderland, and I show you just how deep the rabbit hole goes. Remember, all I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.